Okay, if everything went correctly, and I think it did, we should be live right now. Sorry about the countdown, guys. It got a little funny. We do have a special guest. Again, I'm your host, Frostgrim, but I'm going to introduce our special guest first because no one even cares about you guys. Like, we have you guys every single week to week to week. I know I love you, but they don't. It's going to be Orrin Xu. Orrin, I'll ask you some questions so you can kind of give yourself a formal introduction, but we're just going to say representing on China Talk LGD. Is that a fair?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much.
We could use that then. Raz, Esportspedia. Drexen is going to be Esports Heaven. And then Kelsey Moser is representing a lot of people. Yeah, I'll go with that. But first and foremost, let's just get right back into it again because we do have a guest and we don't get a lot of guests on China Talk, so I really want to talk about this. So, Orrin, I know that you have a background with Dota. And can you kind of explain that to me? And do you have any sort of background in League of Legends at all, other than obviously your job, but as far as like background knowledge?
So I guess I first came across League when Dota was on the decline, around 2009, I think. Oh no, 2010, when HON came out and LoL came out, and I tried both. LoL had the cel-shaded graphics and it gave me a headache, so I quit after 2 games. And that's pretty much my experience in LoL.
That's the
Over the years, and then I played Dota, because I'm obviously for Dota. Then I get too angry at Dota, so I'll go play LoL because I'm a noob. And then it's all good because it's fun, because I'm a noob. Whereas in Dota, because I know the game so well, that I'm like, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? And getting angry. So I use LoL as like a escape from the rage.
That's totally fair. So,
man, you know it's bad when someone uses League as an escape from the rage.
Never play Dota with me.
I'm not that bad. I'm just, I'm actually
I'm a bad
player.
one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I played Dota once and I couldn't figure out how to buy items, and everyone in chat is like raging at me, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna go back to League of Legends now. But that was my experience with Dota. No, that's cool because obviously there are some parallels, them both being MOBAs, and I think Kelsey talked to you kind of previously on what your take on some of the games were, because obviously we're going to talk a lot about the game. So it'll be interesting to get a Dota guy's perspective on what's happening in the games, because every time I watch Dota, I'm like, something is happening, it looks awesome, but I have no idea what it was. Just like large explosions overtaking my screen. It's like an epileptic nightmare. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I would describe awesome things.
Yeah, epileptic nightmares. No, LGD, what is your position exactly in the house? And you're in the LGD Gaming house, yeah?
Yeah, so we've got, in this location, we have 3. One for, I guess, our admin business side. That's where I work.
Does Flame get one house all to himself?
No, he gets a whole room for himself, though.
Okay.
All the other players have to share it, so he's special. So this house itself is just League of Legends. We have all the players. We have a maid sort of person who cooks and cleans for us. We have the translator. We've got the team manager / coach, which is White Crescent, and then we have the team leader, which is sort of the guy who just pays all the bills, makes sure the house runs perfectly. All the, sort of like a babysitter sort of position. That's sort of this house. And then most of the other houses, like all the other gaming houses, are roughly the same sort of setup, except in this one I live here as well with the LGD players.
And are you in Shanghai then?
Yeah, so we're just sort of like on the very outer reach of Shanghai. This way there's less distractions, because obviously Shanghai's a bit of a metropolis. So people can go out and have fun and not come back and train. So we try and avoid that by living very far away from anything fun.
Okay, and specifically, what is your job within the organization?
So my job is on the business development side. We talk to sponsors. We look at events as well. So where our players will go and basically be spokesperson for them. And then we look at how monetizing, I guess, our fans to create more revenue for the company or the club, and therefore we get more better players, invest more back into the club as well. So this year you'll see LGD put a lot more focus on our international fan base, both in Dota and League of Legends. But at the moment it's just me running it, so obviously a lot of the content is more League because I live with the League team. but eventually we'll have our own sort of international team and then, there's a lot of people who've been asking to buy, for example, team uniforms, so we'll have that on sale, things like that.
Oh, that'll
So
be
there's no
popular.
difference anywhere else. So.
Okay. So here's actually my burning question before we get to anything else. One thing I'm curious about: XQ, where is he?
He's gone home. He's part of the team, but he's on the bench for now.
Oh,
Put it that
okay.
way.
Excellent.
It's like the where in the world is Carmen Sandiego kind of like question there.
How can we get him to play for Versace Gaming?
How can we get him on Versace Gaming?
I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't know.
I won't even put you in that type of situation.
Yeah.
It's so
that was definitely a rhetorical question on my part.
Okay. So obviously every single week in LPL there are a ridiculous amount of games. There's 24 games, there's 12 sets of 2, yada yada yada. That's a ton of games for us to cover on this show. So I wanted to focus on 3. I believe that Orrin, you wanted to bring up another one, Snake versus EDG, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Obviously.
yeah, we're gonna talk about 4 games, and the 4 games that we're gonna talk about, other than Snake versus EDG, of course, we're gonna talk about LGD versus EDG because that was the big highlight game. King versus Snake, and Invictus Gaming versus Versace Gaming. And the reason why I chose these games, the panelists didn't really have a say, but I would assume that they would agree, is because I feel like these games give us the best kind of representation across the spectrum of where things have finally settled. Because obviously the last time that we did China Talk, we did our rankings episode. And lo and behold, Snake is not last place. And that's the first thing that I want to kind of hit you guys with. Because I know we just kind of talked about LGD, but I want to hold off on LGD versus EDG. I want to open with King versus Snake, and first and foremost, the fact that we gave Snake such a low rating, and we rated King so highly, or we spoke very highly of them. And to be frank, King has pretty much shit the bed as far as our expectations of them, and Snake has gone above and beyond anything that we predicted for them. So even before we get down into that actual breakdown of the game, where do you think we specifically went wrong on Snake? What were the things that we hit them on, or the things that you guys docked them on, and then where did they overcome, or where did they overcompensate?
I will say specifically from my end, when I was doing LSPL research, I thought the way they were playing wouldn't carry over to LPL successfully, much like a lot of other LSPL teams that have almost hit the spotlight, like Elite Academy back in the day and stuff like that. And I also think that I was a little surprised with how well Flandre handled himself against some of the other top lane talent individually. Just because I knew he was good in LSPL and he would hard carry his team there, but I didn't realize that he would go head to head with a lot of the top laners here. And he, I brought this up on my point when we were reviewing the games before they broadcasted, but I always kind of thought he was one of those hipsters players, kind of like the actually that's discrediting him. I was gonna say the Cali trolls of China, but that's wow. Super wrong. But no, he plays really strong meta champions, and their team fighting has looked pretty good. And I even think Crystal's been shaping up over the course of multiple games. So
okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to talk about the idea of the scheduling being it favors Snake in the early run, which is at the same time as well, because they had the game with GAMT. I expected them to beat GAMT, but I did later on. I thought GAMT would come together and they would be a better overall team than Snake. What I didn't expect, obviously, I don't think anyone expected, was the game that they the set that they beat EDG in, and they felt like. I can't rate them last place anymore, because I did feel like
I would hope
because even though I did feel like the scheduling favored them extremely highly, in the first couple of weeks, maybe just the week 1, week 2, just week 1 actually. It just came down to the fact that
We've
Beast
only
and
had
Aya,
2 weeks.
Well,
Calm down.
no, here.
Yeah. But I meant I thought week 1 was just specifically going to be easy for them, but. Damn, Beast and Ella actually did really, really well for that team in terms of vision control. Just because they caught out a lot of ganks before they even happened, or just and I didn't expect that. I really didn't. I thought they were just gonna be like the B tier Koreans coming in, kind of like World Elite class, and they weren't gonna perform, or at least as well as Reborn and Colin did for that team.
I'm glad that you brought up scheduling, because I think that there's something that was very unique in how we handled the Snake situation, because if you look kind of across at Invictus Gaming had really easy scheduling as well. I mean, they faced Energy Pacemaker, Gamty, and World Elite kind of before they came up against Vici Gaming, and so it's like no one said anything about IG's like easy schedule. We ranked them not super high, but they got much higher than Snake, obviously, because Snake came in dead last. And it's kind of like, why did we rate IG so highly? Was it simply, like you said, that B tier Korean versus the S tier Korean?
I guess I did it. Oh, go on, Kelsey.
I just want to say, I think I rated them so low because we saw them when they first had their new roster, and they looked significantly worse than they did before with their older roster, and obviously there are issues with growing pains and things like that, but you can't see a team play do really terribly, and that's all you have to go on, and then say, oh yeah, they're not going to be last place. Like, they did okay in WGT finals, but that was one group stage game that they won, like a couple group stage games before they ended up getting knocked out. So it still isn't a lot to go on, and I don't know. They advanced a lot as a group in a very short amount of time. I think for me the test is still, I want to see them on a big patch, because since WE, that's my test for all of these mixed language teams, is how they adapt, and if they can adapt quickly enough to a really, really big meta change.
And obviously, that means, you're referring to the point at which World Elite fell last year and Star Heroicum rose up, was the patch shift away from kind of that protect the 80 carry mentality. Which sounds weird because I just said Star Heroicum excelled, but Lucian was really strong on that patch.
No, it's more like the lane swapping and the focus on dragons, because they used to just send like Quay Shoutout top, and he would 1v1 the top laner, because Conan could roam, and Conan roamed kind of effectively. But yeah, I think that was
out of the lane.
Yeah, and instead, like, Wei Xiao refused to kind of adapt, and he still would go top and just farm and farm and farm, and they would give up dragons when Dragon Gold was significantly higher. Yeah, they would give up dragons in favor of him getting farm, and that was a big problem.
And you brought up mixed language, and obviously Snake. I'm assuming that they compete with those same issues, and the fact that they have those two Korean players as well. But it doesn't seem to be as big of a problem for them as it did, say, Invictus Gaming or some of, because you can kind of see, like, even in EDG, which they looked amazing in their first week, there's some things that are starting to kind of like fall apart, especially in such a team fight based meta like the Chinese region. You guys following what I'm saying at all? I see Kelsey typing in chat, I'm assuming.
No. I'm just sitting here. I'm thinking as you're saying this is that we all say stuff about mixed language rosters and how hard it is for them to adapt and this other stuff, but I kind of want to know what Orrin thinks about this, because he has, being like a Chinese to English translator and working with like the Chinese Korean translator, he might have a little bit more insight about what that's like. So
yeah, obviously I was about to ask him, but thanks, Kelsey. Thanks for my segue.
How do you do that?
I took your job.
So in terms of our team, we use English to communicate in pretty much everything. They do have Chinese lessons, but that sort of stopped since the LPL started. A lot of their time spent predominantly just training, whether that's solo queue, duo queue, or against in scrims. But yeah, 90% of communication is done in English. So, but that said, when I say English, it'll be like, instead of saying nice when you kill someone, it'll be nice-oo, impu, and like it's all Koreanified. So and then like other words will be old Chinese side. So it's like a mix and match. In going ahead though, we're structuring it so that they'll have regular English lessons with me, where we'll slowly teach them more complicated communication methods.
Do you teach them the English?
Yeah. So yeah, I do.
Okay.
So we did try initially with just a sort of a translation deck, where on the left was the Chinese word, the middle was like the common way that they would communicate, whether that's in Koreanified English or in Chinese, like in the pinging, and then the last column was the Korean version, so all the players had it, but it didn't seem to work very well. So we're definitely going in the actual proper English training method. Plus, they're really excited. Obviously, S5 is in Europe now, so all the Chinese players like, I really want to learn English and be able to talk to people, and have fun and things like that. So, but that's a bit digressing a little bit.
Can I ask? I don't know how much of this is like top secret strategy, but what kind of vocabulary? Like, what is your guys' vocab? Do you guys structure? Because obviously, I would assume that you'd have like set words that.
So, what we've done is at this stage is that they've listed out all the keywords either in Korean or in Chinese that they think is critical to gameplay. We've listed out in a table format, and then the common version in the middle. So how we translate across. From there, then going ahead, I'll be teaching them the proper way. We'll do it in a standardized English version without any accents to it, but that's only on the list, so they're I guess, specific phrases and words, but that's not good enough to explain complicated methods like, go around this corner to gank someone, or, nuke this guy, not this guy. So that'll be the next phase, but that probably won't happen until in March at this stage.
So, like, what are your keywords? Like, gank, obviously I'm assuming go is one. Do you have one for, like, focus, dive?
Yeah, so the common ones that all members have would be like you said, gank, dive, back, nuke, no ulti. Then like we'll say, like in Australia we'll say it's on cooldown, whereas they'll say that what does flame say? I can't remember, but they don't say the same thing. And then they've sort of worked out what everything means and things like that. Like in Chinese, because mana is blue, the color blue, so we say blue in Chinese, so lan. Whereas they say MP, no MP, like in an RPG. So there's things like that still needs to get worked out. I mean, it works obviously, but I want to try and standardize it as much as possible. So then at least if they do end up moving or whatever, they're not stuck in one sort of way of like Naisu, Inpu, Ikonu, things like that. So.
When prepping for games and when working with the coaches, as far as like creating strategy, is it obviously presenting that to the team, because you guys are a mixed language team? Is it presented in both languages, or can you clearly see like a disconnect though of some players not maybe understanding everything because of like transferring through languages?
Our translators, we have two. Both. So in China, there's a lot of minority groups, and one of them lives along the border with North Korea. So they're fluent, like they were taught both Mandarin and Korean when they were growing up, so they can translate it perfectly. This is like me with English, but for them it's Korean. So there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no sort of disconnect, especially because one of the translators actually plays the game. That's why he's doing this, whereas the other one's just a normal translator. So at this stage, there's no sort of problem, but I don't know going ahead whether there may be more complicated stuff. So.
Are any of the Korean players, because obviously PYL is the captain, and he's well known kind of for like his ability to captain and to lead a team. Do any of the Korean players have input on that, or is it mostly all through PYL?
I think the top laners are pretty sort of take a step back. Imp does have a few opinions, and that gets translated out obviously. But overall, in game, typically, I mean, from what I've seen, watching their scrims and stuff, it's pretty vocal all across. But obviously, PYL takes the driver's seat most of the time. But it's pretty even as far as I can tell. Again, I'm not a huge connoisseur of League of Legends either, so it's hard for me to tell.
Do they get along?
Yeah, there's no problem. There's a few things that they don't like about China, the Koreans. But it's not the players.
Like the,
Okay,
like
here's
that,
a Here's a major
fishing
question for
show
me.
where Imp was like, I'm not eating that.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask. Is it the food? How is the Chinese food? Because I have had bad experience with Chinese food. It's a really bad.
Our maid's pretty good, I think. Like, you know, it's definitely not to their taste, and so the management, people above me, have decided that they're going to get takeaway Korean for every single meal now. So while we look for a Korean chef, but you know, each player has their little quirks. Akon has the least amount of problems out of all the players in terms of getting accustomed to it. He really likes it, from what I can tell. And then it slowly progresses to more and more sort of requests and needs. I'm not going to go elaborate more, but
Would you say that Acorn is the most mature player out of all of them?
yeah. I mean, the translator tells me he can tell from like talking to him in Korean that because he's done his national service, there's like a massive difference between that like Imp who's not done his national service. So he thinks he's definitely way more mature, and I guess that might be why he, you know, takes things more easily than certain other players who shall not be named.
I have so many assumptions that I'm just making. Okay, Orrin, you haven't actually chimed in, and you were the one who wanted to talk about the Snake versus EDG game. And in fact, let's lead it with this. Like, before you kind of break down into that game and give us your thoughts, can you tell us what LGD thinks of Snake? I mean, obviously they haven't faced yet, but
I mean, this is my opinion from what I can tell from what talking to them. It may not be there, so, but it's obvious that Snake is definitely a tier below the top tier teams of China in the LPL. But Snake definitely proved people wrong on Friday. I think that's when they played. So you know, we gotta prepare. I suppose I can reveal. I mean, scrims don't mean much, but we have lost to Snake in scrims as well. So they're definitely, you know, was a massive confidence boost for them, and we, you know, we're not going to take them lightly, but they're definitely not. They're not EDG level. Like, by far, talking to no matter which player you talk to in China, they think EDG is the team to beat this year, and like OMG might be second, but there's a big gap between.
I think, so from what I've noticed of the way EDG plays and Snake plays, that Snake's style is almost like a counter to EDG. That and Snake's pick and ban phases were much better than EDG's for those series. Like, they got ridiculously good combinations and champions. And so EDG typically, and I think this is why you guys struggled with them, is because I think you have similar issues with the early lane phase not being as good as like the late game coordination and map movements and team fighting. So the way historically that it's been, and it's changed a little bit because EDG is not exactly the same team, you beat Edward Gaming is only in the late game, only in the early game, excuse me, because like the late game, if they're ahead, they'll just destroy you. So I think that has a lot to do with it, because like the rising teams from LSPL are very proficient in the snowball and making those early game decisions, and it's in closing out where they struggle a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts, Orrin, on the games? Or the Snake versus EDG?
Oh, I mean, I sort of watched it like out of the corner of my eye, so I don't really watch it intensely. But, you know, it was...
Wants to talk about game, didn't watch it intensely.
Yeah, I didn't... But I think it's an important game, because everyone was like, EDG's going to destroy them. Why watch this game? And then they lost 2-0. Like, it wasn't even a 1-1 loss, it was 2-0. So,
I think Pawn is weak. I think the reason why...
I mean, he got...
I don't.
He's not a team fighter like you was.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. I don't think he's a bad player. It's just he's thrown into a situation where he doesn't have to serve the role that he did on his old squad, and so he's very unfamiliar with that. That's how I feel.
And I feel like that was the key problem of this episode was supposed to be about identity, like the team's identities and how they've shifted and how they've kind of created them, and particularly in, like Kelsey, what you were saying, like Snake's stylistic matchup to EDG and what EDG used to be to what they are now. And we did this on our LPL Showdown, kind of the recap it was mentioned, is that EDG is a very different team now, almost like they were known for like their team fighting presence, almost Samsung Blue-esque, and now it's, I don't know if I think it's a combination between Pawn really and Koro. Koro's role changing drastically in the team makeup just with his champion pool and kind of the new position that he's taken. And Pawn, I feel like if Pawn doesn't get his snowball, if he doesn't get control in like skirmishes, because he's really good in like 3v3s, 2v2s, 2v3s and things like that, he just completely falls apart in like a team fight. And again, when you're in China, and team fighting is so important, especially against a team like Snake. That's just my take.
I want to be able to, because I have a massive gripe with Snake, but I feel like Snake is such a, they're really improving as a team, and it really all started from LSPL, in which they did have that snowballing style, and they did have that one-dimensional play that they've always had, and I feel like they've understood that they needed to improve in that sense, and so near the end of the LSPL, they kind of like, they went for a more meta play, like you started seeing like Gragas plays. This was when Gragas was like a major top laner. Those days were sad days. But yeah, like he started playing those meta top laners, and he was like, obviously at that point Snake wasn't really. Whenever they played that style, it was like okay, it felt awkward. Like they weren't playing it very well. And so now we see Beast and Ella kind of round out Snake's faults with their vision control, and at the same time, Beast has been a very, I wouldn't say he's insect-esque, but he goes in when he feels like there's any, even if he doesn't feel like they can win the fight. I'm not sure, I can't like say what he feels like, but it feels like he'll just go in at any point, and that's a very weird thing to say, but he's trigger happy, I'll say. And so I feel like, man, okay, because I have so many gripes with this team, and I want to be able to air them out and why I feel like they're. I'm so sorry for like taking over this because
okay.
I've turned into the Snake
first,
hater.
Let's structure you a little bit.
Okay.
What would you say is the identity? Because obviously, as the LSPL person on the show, you have the most experience with Snake. At least it's kind of following their rise. What is their definitive style? Like if EDG was late game team fighting, which obviously they've shifted away from now. Like what is Snake? How would you define that team?
Okay, so we always have a DPS champion on Flandre. He wants to be the damage of the team, regardless. Like, and of course now he's playing Rumble. Gnar is his big thing. So if he gets his hands on Gnar, or if they decide that they have that first
we're never
pick,
going to see like a Maokai.
Yeah, we won't see a Maokai. And
He
if it
played
happens,
Maokai
it's
last
weird.
night, though.
Yeah. Like if it happens, then it's like.
He's been playing a lot of Rumble and Maokai.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's working out for him, but it kind of puts the emphasis on the other players, which I want to go on to.
Because Baka gets Xerath every game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god.
ridiculous.
Only one team has actually banned Xerath away from him, and I still haven't seen that game, so I want to be able to analyze that later tonight.
Are they using it in tandem with Severe?
A little, yeah, in some games.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I don't understand about this composition. Like, I feel like people play one Xerath game in like a scrim or something, and they're just like a god because they can just kill everything from far away, and they're like, this is an amazing champion, this is so awesome. But so many times in OGN, or Lick, or whatever you want to call it, people will pick Xerath and they'll just get like shit on. Why wouldn't you just pull... He's a stop sign, that's what he is. He's a giant blue pole, and you put him on a severe composition, and you just make him go really fast, and I just don't understand that concept at all. Like, I guess you can kind of engage with the team and then kind of like pot shot from really far away, like Xerath doesn't have to keep up with the severe like team if it runs ahead of him, but why wouldn't you just pick severe against him and just like run into his face? Or pick Jarvan into him and run into his face. Like, this is what... Like, obviously, you don't have to ban Xerath away. You can just jump on him.
So you can, like, pick, like, to deal with it. And I don't understand... I think later on, as the season progresses, teams will, like, learn how to deal with him. Because it comes down to the fact that... I don't know if there has been research done, but I do know that they don't take it... Or at least they don't take his Xerath pick seriously. Like, even King, when they played against it, they kind of... Like, I felt like they knew that they were... picking against the Xerath pick, because they first picked Azir, which is really risky in the sense that, like, of course, like, that's what Snake immediately picked Kassadin next, and they were like, is that going to be a Kassadin counter pick that we all see? Like, no, that's a Kassadin going top lane, and they're going to commit like Xerath to the mid lane, and it's like, okay, well, he got ran in on in like early game, but it didn't matter as they started to outscale. It was, yeah. I don't.
The thing about King, though, is that you could notice that even, like, it felt like they were used to playing against Snake Seraph, because even their dodging has been, like, I say this is really weird, but their dodging of his Xerath ultimates has been better than even, like, the top teams that just kind of sit there and take it. But I think, like, over time, his Xerath pick will become less and less of a big deal because people can sort of figure out the way he's thinking about the champion and where his skill shots are going to go.
Or you
so
could just jump on him.
Yeah, you could do that too, but I think they set it up. I think, and you knocked the severe pick, but Xerath is all about positioning, and so any tool you have that helps him reposition, I think, is useful. So the severe ultimate to make him like find a different vantage point could be helpful. They also played it with like Rumble one of the games, and that creates a zone for him. Rumble Jarvan. So I don't know. There are ways to build a composition around it for sure.
I
don't think
Xerath. I think it's a solid pick. What I don't understand is China as a region, like in and obviously it's a little bit harder to tell if you're just watching two Chinese teams against each other. But if you put a North American challenger team against a Chinese team, for example, maybe, like these teams, they pull the trigger. And no matter what team, even if it's a low bottom tier team or LGD, like those teams, when they go really, really hard, and suddenly everyone's flashing. It's like one pick becomes 5 people, and they're all on top of you. And so that's what I find really curious, why Xerath is able to work, because historically, poke compositions, and of course they've been on the rise since Worlds, but historically they haven't really worked in LPL. Like, no one's really been able to execute them. And of course you have like this mass Korean Exodius coming in, so obviously more styles, people are learning more things, the Korean coaches coming in, so that's a big part of it. But this is an interesting perspective, the fact that it's coming from Snake. Like, we're talking about Snake Xerath. It's not like we're talking about like Pawn's Jace or something.
To be fair,
which by the way was really underwhelming.
I'm telling you, it's underwhelming.
I think he looked really good at Worlds, but I haven't been impressed with him.
Oh, he looked really good inside the best team in the world.
I know, but I'm saying
but
the thing is that even at Champions he didn't look that good. Like,
I don't know. I feel like the difference though is like it's not like Looper where he was just had to live for the team to win. Like I said, I just feel like it's a stylistic difference for Pawn's case. I don't know. That's how I feel. Just because like you could tell like with Looper's performance in several of the LPL games that he's clearly not as good as he appeared on Samsung, but it's a little bit different for Pawn. I just feel like he's uncomfortable when I watch him, not that he's bad.
I think there's a lot more pressure on him.
He's also dealing with a Chinese jungler.
Yeah. And there's a lot more pressure on him to pressure his advantage in lane, because that's kind of where his strengths are. And that's what EDG, I think, in my estimation, like trying to predict why they would switch you out for him, that's why they picked him up, is because you would get advantages in lane and then do nothing with them, but Pawn like pressures them a little bit harder. The only issue is that he's not getting advantages in lane, especially not against people like Wayless.
Yeah.
Shoutout. Yeah, that's about it.
Do you know what Wayless thinks about Pawn? Or what LGD's stance on Pawn is?
Not really, but I can ask.
I'm just curious if if LGD had to, because obviously like EDG's the big, I wanted to say dog, but now I don't want to say dog. the big team that everyone wants to take down.
Yep.
So does LGD have like any like weak points or pressure points that they want to strike?
About EDG. The general consensus is EDG is amazing, and then you just have to outskill them. I mean, our weakness that we know ourselves is that our early game is really bad, and we always have to drag it out to late game to be able to win anything. And that's something that the team wants to work on, and whether that's part of how we beat EDG, might be why. And I mean, from an outsider watching, our initiation sometimes is a bit sketchy. They'll jump in and it'll take another 3 seconds before the rest of the team goes in and helps, and then you get wiped. So that's from an outsider looking in. But the team definitely knows that early game needs to improve before they can beat someone like EDG. EDG just hands down is just it's the best way to explain it is that people talking to, from what I can tell, is that they said that when you play Samsung White, you don't know what they're gonna do, and EDG is the same. When you play EDG, you don't know what they're gonna do, so you can't counter something that you don't know. That's what we think at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And again, like just because people are, I think, pulling a little bit too much from the EDG versus Snake game is like so much went wrong for EDG and so much went right for Snake. So like I feel like not to discredit Snake's win, of course, because they obviously have been getting better and their vision, like with Beast and Ella has been really good. I mean, in the first game it was like 12 minutes in, they killed off Deft early, and then he just died over and over, and then they just put like deep wards really deep into the red side of the jungle. And, they did snowball their advantages, but I also feel like it was a weak game for Deft, and I feel like EDG's drafting was bad. And the last game, I feel like it could have gone either way, but EDG did some really questionable stuff. If I'm remembering the correct game, I think Clearlove was playing Nunu, and he was just like soloing Dragon for like a year. He was just like punching it for like 3 minutes, and then Beast comes over, and then he's like, "Here you go," and he just walks away, and then Beast finishes it off, and then Snake wins the game, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is literally the worst." So it's like little stuff like that. Like I don't see like, and again, this draws back to the point where EDG has always been like a playoffs team, and the regular season games are always like kind of unconvincing, and I feel like this is like kind of going back to those roots where they're just doing weird stuff that they wouldn't do in a playoffs game, like just trying to like punch Dragon to death with Nunu, and I don't know. That on top of their drafts, it was like Snake played well, but it wasn't like a full strength EDG, I would say. So I don't want to too much.
You have to think of it from EDG's point of view, right? Every single team, like other than EDG, is like EDG's the best, EDG's number one. So you're gonna go in playing like pretty much one of the bottom tier teams, pretty confident. Plus, from what I can tell, most teams don't really take the first half of the spring split very seriously.
Right.
So they're just going to be like, well, and a lot of teams, we're testing out things, That's why you see Flame and Akon going on all the time, pretty much every single game. Like, we're testing new strategies, who's better, who's weaker, and I think a lot of other teams doing that as well. So, I mean, it is an upset, but like you guys said, I would take it with a grain of salt. Like, I came back, I was like, yes, Snake beat EDG, we got a chance tomorrow, we're going to beat them, and then I'm going to look so awesome on China Talk, and then we got destroyed.
That's the goal, look awesome on China.
I came back, I said that to the players, the team here, and they're like, nah, we think that they're going to, like, train twice as hard, because they just got beat by pretty much one of the worst teams in the league. Like, you're not going to take that down, right? You're going to be like, go home, you're going to start training, you're going to be like, going to go Q, you're going to make sure that you see all the strats of who you're playing next, which was us, unfortunately.
I love how Snake
Yeah.
just got called one of the worst teams, and like Dade's retirement home is in this league.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what the reality is, right? Like, if you're EDG, you come home, you've lost to, someone that you were meant to be, you're going to be like, well, I can't lose again to LGD, right? I've got to prove that I am the best, because everyone knows we're the best.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say this, and then they brought it on Saturday.
What about patience?
Mm-hmm.
Which now we can talk about LGD versus EDG then, and I'm glad that you brought up Flame versus Acorn, because obviously we had the side-by-side comparison, and even better, we got a Flame on Rumble into a lane swap that LGD initiated.
That's painful.
Mm-hmm. What?
So
like? This is okay. No. Just I just want to set the stage for this, because going into this for our LPL breakdown, showdown, whatever you want to talk, like a little preview before the games that we do, we talked about how Flandre had just had a ton of success against EDG. And so to me, I'm like, oh my god, LGD now has like, because we had heard that LGD was not going to run Flame in these important matches like EDG and OMG. Was that true?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a last-minute decision to change.
So last minute decision to change to Flame, and I'm sitting here thinking like Flandre just had a ton of success against this. Like this is Flame's time to shine. Like he now becomes a super viable and valuable option. They put him on Rumble, they lane swap him. He pretty much gets dumpstered in the first gank by like 20 people came down. I think there was only 4, but 20 people came down to his lane.
I'm pretty sure every single member, because I was laughing about it.
It was funny.
But
I mean, like,
yeah.
yeah, you
I
go.
mean, sorry, I just wanted to go back to. Well, since we've moved on, it's not even like.
Yes. Sit down.
relevant.
We're talking about Flame.
I
got
wanted
dumpstered
to
on
talk
Rumble.
about the EDG adaptation thing, but then you like destroyed my
Nope. Done.
moment to shine.
Rest in peace, Kelsey's mojo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, here's my question: is Flame ever gonna come off the bench again?
Well, he did last night. So.
But you know what I mean? Like in one of those important matches, like
Like,
what,
are you
did the
guys
team
gonna rich it? Yeah.
did the team blame? Because to me, that's not Flame's fault. That's a pick ban issue. That's a rotation issue. That's a lack of communication issue.
Mm-hmm.
But that was very clearly not Flame's moment.
Yeah, they had a team meeting at noon today. I wasn't there. I went to the work office. So I don't really know what they said, but I know that there's a big long meeting for, I guess, the LoL management as well as player management on Saturday night, I think. Was it Saturday or last night? Last night. Yeah, last night, because I got drunk. And so there might be, I don't know, there might be changes, there might not be. But as far as I'm aware, at this stage, oh, sorry. As far as I'm aware at this stage, we'll keep trying both until Chinese New Year, when we go on break, and then something else may happen or not. I don't know. That all comes down to the coach's decision. At this stage, at the start, it was, they're voting, and so they voted for Akon first, because
Do the
they've been
players
playing
vote,
with
or is the support
Yeah.
staff voting? Okay.
No, the players voted initially, but going ahead, it will be up to the coach to decide who plays and who doesn't.
When they voted, do you think it was more of like a stylistic decision, or was it like what you were referring to earlier, where they feel Acorn is the more mature player?
No. So they voted purely because they played with Akon longer, since mid of December.
Okay.
And Flame
So I figured.
only just came right after New Year's.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do wonder what will happen, because I do feel like it's, of course, we're more inclined to choose Acorn now over Flame. And there's like, I don't know.
At the same
Hmm?
time,
I mean,
you have to think like Acorn's games. He got ahead in farm, but he had a lot less map pressure than Koro. So I wouldn't say that like, and his targeting in team fights were pretty bad. Like he would dive the Annie.
Mhm.
I mean, it's both of those players
Well,
had weak points in their game. So
Well,
I wouldn't
obviously,
say that it's
just
like,
we're not taking like Acorn versus Flame, but obviously in the dynamic of which these two have very different strengths and how they're being executed by the team, Acorn is being executed far superior, not only in just the blatant picks, but in like the style of how he fits with like the team. They find a lot more success on him. So I will say that like I agree with you, Kelsey. Like obviously we're not trying to say like Acorn's so much better than Flame or Flame's so much better than Acorn, but LGD is executing Acorn better.
I mean, in Flame's defense, though, like, the team was obviously on tilt after they could have won game 1 against EDG, in my opinion. They lost the second team fight around, I think, the Dragon or Baron. I forgot which one it was. So going from there, and then they're already on tilt, and then we put on Flame, who, I mean, arguably, Acorn is more stable, I suppose, a safer pick. To an extent, from an outsider again, maybe a recipe for disaster. Whereas you look at other games where
I just like talk over people 100% of the time. I didn't stop that.
Okay, no,
Shame on you, Rez.
we're pretty much arguing about like Acorn and Flame and which of them is like the problem in LGD when fucking Chwin's in the game. Like, let's just take a moment and kind of go back to our roots of China talk. this guy, because you talked about engagements and how someone would go in, we're not going to name any names, he might be a jungler for LGD.
He might have changed recently to TBQ, we're not sure.
Boy, I don't know. This is just a guess,
More news at 11.
but he still looks awful. And by awful, I mean just frankly mediocre. You have much higher caliber junglers. We talked about this before they picked up these huge Korean names like Flame, Acorn, and Imp, how the weakest core member of the team is still on the team. And you don't have to nod, Orrin, you can just like sit there and just look pretty. Because obviously we're talking about... But frankly, Chwin looks like a problem.
It's debatable. I do think that
Debatable?
like it's only debatable in the sense that he doesn't have to do anything because he has this because he has the.
But he jumps in and
backup from
dies
his
anyway.
lanes.
He got out jungled.
But that's
by
not fair
Quay.
because that's like putting him in the position of like the Looper of LGD or something. Like where you don't have to be that good because
that's
we'll all
literally-
just carry you. Like that's
Yeah.
not fair.
And it isn't, but that's just the case of it. Like he does. Yeah, go on.
He got out jungled by Clearlo Braz. Like, we talk about
Nunu
Clearlo's
slapping the dragon.
I like the tone you had there. Like we need to have a talk. Like this happened. I don't like your beliefs.
I understand that Clearlove's like can actually be a good jungle. His highs are actually really, really high. And his lows are really low, and I think he actually played one of his better games. And again, I think it's because Edward Gaming did take LGD a lot more seriously than they took Sneak. And just I understand that, but at the same time, jungling as an early game practice is not something that Clearlove is known for. So just Chwen didn't have a lot of pressure early game, and he didn't have Clearlove's team fighting late game. So I think he definitely stood out because the carries of that team were Deft and Clearlove and Koro.
What is Chwin's role in the house and the team dynamic? Like, how does the team... Because as a bystander, and obviously we've been, like, very vocal about how much we don't dislike him as a person, but maybe think that his play is very questionable, especially on the caliber of team that LGD... Because historically, they had... even if we go back to, like, Rena and Star... Like, they had these very weak champion pools, and then they slowly started rotating people out. You know, they picked up Wayless. Their top laner was kind of like, but again, we've switched him out for now, like, Acorn and Flame, and now we even took this amazing Chinese ADC and XQ, and obviously Imp's going to be an immediate upgrade. But we still have this jungler.
The other thing is that I've noticed that Chwen seems to be, at least from, like, I read the AMA questions, and I don't know, I think... He has a bit of a personality from what I've heard from people who are, I guess, fans of LGD who speak Chinese. And he seems to be well-spoken, like he could be a very good PR guy if he chooses to stay with the club or...
The mascot.
So I don't know if that translates to in-game where he's like talkative and funny or something, but... And that might help morale. I'm just trying to I'm trying to help him out here. I know he outplayed Dade last night. That was great. I enjoyed that. Yeah, when the Dade shadow, and I don't even know what Dade was doing. Like that was what that series was. Is like, what is Dade doing? But Dade had the Zed play, and he left the shadow, and he went out and tried to, I think, assassinate Imp, and then Chwen just like threw the Lee Sin Q and hit him, and then when he went back to his shadow, he followed him all the way to the pit and killed him. I was just like, yes, go Chwen.
But then we remembered that Chwin was outplayed by Conan's Vel'Koz support.
And also that
Conan is now benched.
I do want to say M3's games last night were pretty funny, just because there were so many like mess ups in the entirety of the game. There was like one point in which they were going in for a steal on red buff, and Looper went in for a teleport that was just really, really poorly done. It was like
the teleport king messed up teleport.
Exactly. It was like you started to really understand the
It's almost like
value
it's a full team effort to have solid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
It's like you need to communicate to have the teleport.
That's weird.
It's like, that's when you realized Looper was just a fish out of water, because his qualities as a player does not translate when you put him on a different team.
I just like the assumption just from like a casual viewer that like when you're teleporting, you're just kind of like your team doesn't have any say. You're just like, no guys, don't ever communicate. I always know. You just like you just teleport whenever you want. Like this will always be the correct decision. It's like no man, it doesn't work that way.
Which team used Scion for the dragon? I can't remember. Like that.
That was Energy Pacemaker.
Was
yeah.
it Energy Pacemaker that used the Scion and they killed Scion on the dragon and then he used his zombie form to like push it down? Like if
Using Jay? Yeah, I think it was.
I just want that to be like if I could ever just take a play and just be like, this is Chinese League of Legends, like that would be the play. Like not the Dade outplay, not like the shitty teleports, but killing Scion on dragon. Like
I also.
was that planned?
Sorry, I thought you were gonna go.
No, it's cool, go. We're having like this weird thing, we're being really polite about talking over each other. I think it's because Orrin's here. It's like the family at like Thanksgiving where you're on like your best behavior. You're like, I promise I don't talk over you.
But
Oh man.
so yeah, those games were pretty funny. I think LGD was blowing off some steam in those games, and mostly the question was like, what are Dade and Looper doing now? Yeah, I think definitely we talk about people not taking the first half seriously. I'm kind of expecting Dade to care a little bit more if like the second half goes by and it turns out that M3 is in the bottom 4, which I'm not sure if they will be or not, but I can kind of see him starting to play a little bit more seriously after that. So.
I bet the closer they get to that line about making playoffs, Dade and Looper's performance will steadily get better. That's just my assumption.
I don't know. I don't think it's too. I don't know if it's too early, but I'm already looking forward to the split because I do think that M3s, they're already. I don't know. They're not too good, and it feels maybe it's based on who's trying and who's not, but. Who's showing improvement? Snake's showing massive improvement. I think Snake is. Even though I still believe that Snake is going to be they're not going to be a top tier team at all. They're going to be, at best, middle of the pack. At best.
Here's the thing. So everyone like on paper, and this is perfect because we go back to like the casual viewer, you know, not quite understanding like what takes in to get like a perfect teleport in these perfect paper rosters. So if you set up a roster and you put Looper and you put Dade, even Ruo. I'm not so sure about the bot lane there, but let's assume that it was.
He's been playing better than expected. Like I feel like all the players I relentlessly trashed beforehand are like performing much better than expected. Like I trashed Chatong pretty hard. I trashed Candy pretty hard. So I'm sorry about those. Like the one player who kind of didn't change my mind was Chuen. Sorry, Chuen.
But here's the thing, like
and Aluka.
Say you
Oh
did.
god, yeah.
Yushe
Pokemon
and
though I
SLC.
trashed.
I love Pokemon,
He's
and
playing
it's probably
good.
just the name.
Focus?
UJ and SMLZ. Yeah.
Here we gotta focus. Now.
Focusing. I know you guys can't see me, but focus. So on paper, this roster actually looks fairly solid, and we keep saying like, you know, Dade's not trying, Looper's having miscommunication thing, but there's still like this innate respect that's put in for Dade just because of what his talents are and how he's showcased them in the past with like Ozone and the Samsung organization. But I'm almost at the point where, like, if a player just doesn't care, and if he's just gonna dick around, like, I don't consider that a good player anymore. Like, I'm at the point where Dade, even, like, it's very apparent that he's not playing up to his full potential, but if you're not gonna play to your full potential, at that point, you're just another shitter.
Oh my god. You're setting yourself up for the new Leona right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm just saying, he looks...
Well, okay, when we talk about Dade, can we talk about, like, regular Dade, and we can put him at the top, and then golfer Dade?
But no, I'm tired of that excuse. Like, it's so apparent that he doesn't
We're talking
care. Like,
about
I'm not
golfer
saying
Dade,
that, like...
Dade right now.
Like, I'm not saying that Dade, like, his
Dade.
skill has declined, and obviously he's just, like, awful now. But he's not playing well. He's playing awfully. Like, he's missing shadows, he misses flashes, he mechanically like, he just messes up. He's never where he needs to be, so...
And it all starts with the picks and bans, because I do not think that they're using picks and bans well. Like, he's going into bad matchups all the time. And that's an issue that people even like commented on Faker. Like, you got to be able to play picks and I know you're I understand that certain players are really confident in their ability to go in certain matchups, but at some point you got to understand what picks and bans are for. It's to make the game easier. It's not to make it harder for themselves.
What was that? There's one Reddit comment that I actually really appreciated, and it was because the coach is Axine, yes?
Yeah.
And it was a conversation supposedly between Dade and Axine, and Dade saying like, "Hey Axine, check out this matchup," and then just like insta-locking a counter pick. Like, I bet I can do this.
I bet you 10K that I can play the worst matchup you could think of.
So, I don't know. I'm very disappointed in Dade. Like, I feel like a lot of fans were expecting M3 to do well because they had these superstars, and Dade shit the bed, Looper shit the bed. Like, when your best player is Candy, that's a problem.
I mean, we look like we're gonna lose game 2.
That Candy versus a
LeBlanc?
Luca 1v1 though.
What did you say about LeBlanc?
What was that, Ryan?
I said we look like we're gonna lose game 2.
Oh
a
yeah,
little bit.
that was something. Because I actually tweeted at him. I was like, oh, I bet Orrin's happy about these games, kind of thing. And they immediately throw the game, pretty much. Those
Yeah, I
team
saw
fights,
that.
and I was like, oh, okay. Never mind.
Luckily,
it was a funny
Tran
one.
with his dragon snipes.
Yep. And maybe I'm just overvaluing Trent because of that dragon snipe, but that was pretty good.
Professional
gets-
dragon sniper. That's why he's on the team.
Yeah, his dragon snipes and his ability to outplay Dade.
Now when there's like an LGD hype video for LPL, it has to say his name and then like under it just like a little subtitle, professional dragon sniper, and he's just standing there with a badass pose. Like, yeah, that's my job.
And
That's
every
kind of how I
LGD
felt about Lucky on Royal Club, though. Like, Lucky was terrible. Lucky was worse than Twen, by far, but
He's really lucky with his smites.
he was really good at smiting.
And that's all you need.
Just-
That's all.
Just
That's
wait.
it.
LGD's gonna be in
Still.
like a game, like a really important match, and there's gonna be like a Baron. Like, it'll be like the next EDG versus LG, like in the finals or something, and Twin will like flash over red buff wall just to get there faster, and then he'll like queue in and he'll get the Baron steal. Just watch for it. I'm gonna predict this. And like in like 40 games, Twin's he's gonna make the play. And then we'll all be wrong. Good job, Twin.
Can you dragon kick people into Baron and do damage? Because that'd be cool. I don't think you can, but that would be the best way to steal it.
I don't
right
think
there.
it does splash damage.
I don't think it does. Ugh, dang.
Trust me.
I just wanted to hype up this moment a little bit more, but I guess it just can't be that epic.
Before we move on between LGD and EDG, since we do have Orrin here, I'm gonna say congratulations, Imp. You 1v1 deft and you killed him. Actually, I think you 2v1 deft and you killed him on Tristana. And then he hopped over the wall and then immediately died. But still. He got him. That was the storyline. He killed deft. Was Imp really excited to face off against deft?
Yeah, he's like, if there's all week, like he's just been training just so that he can play against death. Like he's just constantly solo queuing or duo queuing. Like usually he's just like KTV, 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 but this week he just nothing. More game. What internet broke? Oh, I can't train. That's
And
it's like
KTV is KTV Korean television?
No, it's karaoke.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Okay.
And Imp has actually been playing a lot. Like he didn't play poorly at the first week at all. I think I just felt like this was a typical Imp fashion. Like I saw the aggression that he played this week, regardless of what champion he played, and regardless of who he was playing against. There was one time where he just had static shiv and he jumped on, I think it was Dade's LeBlanc, and you were like, "Geez, that's risky." I don't know about that. If like he could have been bursted down, but at every point he wanted to put out as much damage as possible, and he was playing really solidly.
But then you remember
he
that
solo
Dade
killed
doesn't
Dade
care.
a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't no, I'm done with this. This isn't an accomplishment anymore. Until Dade
No,
figures his shit out, like
I'm
he
not
doesn't get
saying
to
it's
be
an
Dade.
accomplishment. I'm saying it's funny.
He gets to be that random mid laner for M3 that's like counterpicks himself 90% of the time and like shadows into walls the other 10. Like
He constantly loses to Wayless.
IG versus Vici. We were supposed to do like the 3 games and then we got like distracted. But I want to talk about Invictus Gaming versus Vici Gaming. It's a tie.
It's a tie.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is sad.
Pretty good chance he's not going to be starting, I'm assuming.
You think?
It's sad because on paper the Pokemon is worse than Save, and Zatai is worse than Rookie, but you can't obviously play both of them, and this on paper the skill difference between Zatai and Rookie isn't as big as the skill difference between Pokemon and Save, but I think it's just that Cacao and Rookie work so well together.
Yep.
That it makes up for so much of the Pokemon issue, which, again, I think I oversold how bad Pokemon is. He's been playing okay.
Well, the importance of this match...
We haven't really seen him against a super strong top laner, though.
Yeah,
Amazing Jay is not a super strong top laner.
and that's
He's
what
like
was
he's a good laner. That's all I can give Amazing Jay. And I think that
except for when he dies to Dragon at level 1 and then is 2 levels behind.
Mm.
But that was the importance of this
Style
match,
points.
the fact that Vici Gaming, because their scheduling, again, if we take the scheduling, it's been very, very different. On Invictus Gaming side, yes, they were the only undefeated team, but they had faced off against arguably the weakest teams in LPL, whereas Vici Gaming has faced both, the top 2 teams. So, and I'm trying to remember in our power rankings, we ranked these teams very close to each other, but I think we put Vici under Invictus Gaming, and so,
No, we put Vici over Invictus Gaming.
Did they sneak in over? Well, either it was Vici
They were
Gaming and
right
then,
next to each other, yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, I think a big part of that is that there was question marks over Carey and Hatong and kind of their place in the whole Mata, Dandy, Vasily.
I had no question mark about Carey. I had question marks about Vasily and Hatong, but
The weirdest thing is that I didn't even have a question mark over Vasily, even though I should have. I just had a question mark over Hitan. And I felt like Vici would be a great team as
Kelsey,
time...
pull your microphone out of your nostril. Thank you.
But I was, for instance, I thought Vasily would turn to form. I thought Carey would do pretty well. I was kind of question marking over...
No,
Okay,
you don't get to say that.
Okay.
I just called Dade a shitter, okay? And we're gonna be just as harsh on Vasily. Vasily
That's
is in
true.
a region with Uzi, Name, Deft, and Imp. They are...
Yeah.
I can think of so many more qualified 80 carries just from the Chinese, because he's now from North America, from the Chinese region that I would have put before I grabbed Vasily. And Vasily has performed on 2 champions. He performed on Severe and he performed on Tristana, which guess what? Tristana's his champion. That's to me, I almost think that Vasily and Wild Turtle kind of have the same issue in that they perform really well on a very specific champion pool. But if they don't get that champion, it's pretty much nothing. It's just non-existent. Wild Turtle is easier because he doesn't have as stiff of competition. But when you have the competition for 80 carry specifically that you do in China, Vasily's not even, I don't even consider him good then. He's just mediocre.
That's fair. I understand that. I felt like I kind of overvalued the 80 carry hype that was in NA. I actually really did. I felt like Vasily was going to be pretty much on the same tier as...
You did not.
As maybe...
Raz, please.
Kid. There you go.
What? Raz, please?
What?
Yeah,
Raz, please?
No, wait, Okay.
I'm sorry. I really overvalued NA's 80 carries. I really did.
I mean, even when you're watching it, it's really hard to gauge because he's laning with Mata. So I mean,
Yeah.
This is the thing. He has
It's not,
Dandy
a fair
and
comparison.
Mata.
Yeah.
he'll go 7-1 in games, but then in other games he'll just feed because I feel like those are the games where Mata is not controlling the situation. And then even when, even if you're talking about Vasily versus Tail, no one really knows and cares about Tail right now on Ganty. I care about Tail. I think he's going to be very good.
Is the better 80 carry.
But even just against Tail, when Tail was behind in score and behind in farm, I felt like he had a greater impact on the game than Vasily. There were so many games, and then when you watched last night Feeding versus Invictus Gaming, there were just so many fights that Dandy, Mata, and Carey, and even Hatong just won without Vasily even attacking anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's not doing the. I would love to see the damage to champions outputs from those games.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
the
And
trend of Vici Gaming.
And even if it's positive, like that's not to try to totally discredit him or anything, but like the view will always be skewed because of his teammates. Like we'll never really get a great gauge of Vasily until he's like super outclassed, and it shows that like no matter what Mata does, he's pretty much hopeless. I mean, I don't know if it'll get to that point or if Vasily will like rise up, but like for the most part, from what I've seen, it's basically Mata carries the laning phase, and then his team does the rest. And I don't know.
People used to say this about Imp, but I feel there's definitely a difference.
No, there's a huge difference because
Yeah.
Imp is individually really skilled. He just needs a leash. Like Vasily, it's like a different thing when you're in the region with that many strong AD carry talent. So
I just want to underscore that. Yeah, it's not.
And think about Vasily's
There's a
playstyle.
difference.
Like if we think about like the essence of Vasily, it's always going to be that Tristana play and him jumping forward, and that's still like something that people use as like a bit. Oh, he plays like Vasily, he jumps forward. But there's a very definite difference in how Vasily gauges a situation when he jumps in and immediately dies versus someone like Uzi, someone like Name, someone like Imp, someone like Deft, even. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then being flanked by Dandy and Mata and still not performing.
yeah,
Yeah.
he just has a lot of leeway on that team. I don't know. It's really hard to gauge. I mean, it's not like he's been blatantly feeding or anything like that. Granted, it'd be hard with the team he's on. So it's just that I do feel like he's kind of an anchor in terms of Vici having a higher standing in the LPL.
Yeah, I really thought that Vici would be kind of like an all-star team with the laners, except for maybe the mid laner. But it turns out their mid laner Hetong is actually really well. He's like really what carries that team along with the rest of them, actually, except for Vasily. So it's like, okay, well.
Does LGD have any thoughts? Is Imp ever vocal on who he respects as an AD carry?
No, I haven't. Deft, probably.
He just respects no one else.
I mean, you obviously have to respect any AD carry, but as far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't really asked him the question either. So.
He had that PR moment at Worlds where he walked up to UZI and was like, "You're the better AD carry." He doesn't talk about that.
And then he got
Yeah.
into the finals match. He was like, "Okay, better AD carry."
I'll show you this time.
I'll get you.
No, I mean, Vici is an interesting team to put. I can tell you this. PYL is very impressed with Vasily's sculpted body.
Well, he's that going for him.
So I can tell you that one.
Whoa, that scared me. I heard sculpted. I was like, what?
No.
Sculpted body, okay.
Deep in my
Okay.
picture folder, I have a picture of Vasila.
No!
Is it really that deep, Raz? Really? It's just not on your desktop.
It was back when he was like streaming and like he was in Q and all he did was just like play shirtless Dance Revolution or something. Something I don't even know. It was some dancing game.
Vasily is
So-
a very attractive guy. This is true.
There, yeah, I
It's got to
guess.
be it, man. We've nailed it.
I mean, there's Love Link, so he has competition.
But,
Okay, so
I mean-
here's the real question.
Okay.
Between Flame, Loveling, and Vasily.
And what about so actually someone asked who is manlier, Acorn or Flame?
Or
That's
Rasmus.
definitely Acorn. There's no question about it.
That's what I mean, I figured that, so
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
decisive.
I mean, the Koreans, like from what I can tell, across all teams, have some interesting demands. Flame's actually quite good in comparison to certain other teams.
Hmm.
For example, Flame, he only uses bottled water for, and only the primo bottled water. So,
I switched over to the pictures slideshow that you submitted to me before we did this. So on the screen right now are some pictures that who has taken translator, you said?
yeah, so Peng, he's our Korean to Chinese translator, and obviously because I can't go at the moment and he's part of the staff, so each team gets 10 passes, so I don't understand. I think OMG has a 10-man roster or something ridiculous. So none of them can go in.
with all their
Actually,
supports that they don't
Funny
play.
story. So that I wanted to go on the launch day because they have like a launch party thingamabob, and then we all got rejected. So I think it was OMG's boss. They're from Guangdong to the south near Hong Kong, and like because it was the start, and he was doing this fan thing. So he's like, "Come on, all my really, top fans. I'll pay for you to fly out here. I'll put you up at a nice hotel. We'll all go to the LPL together." And there was like 20 of them, and they all got rejected.
Oof.
Wow, that's rough.
So he spent all the money. Like they all flew out, and then on the day, I think the day before the LPL started, they said because of the stampede on Shanghai on New Year's Eve, all things are cancelled.
How many, the stadium, how many people does it hold? Because they have a
think-
new arena now.
I think it's up to 2,000,
Okay.
and supposedly it sells out. But that was on the old one. Like, apparently people across China, they'll fly in specifically to go to the LPL. So it's like basically like a real sport to that extent, just to watch it. And coming from the Dota scene, unless it's like a really big event, like we've got the DAC coming up, from the ones that I've been to, it doesn't get to that type of capacity. Let alone and we're talking about they're like offline events. Where big money is being played and people still don't go. Whereas like LPL people actually get really invested into it. They cheer for their team and that sort of stuff. It's really different. But I haven't been to the international, and I'll be going to DAC, so hopefully DAC would be similar. But it's really interesting to hear LPL just sells out on a weekly basis every single seat. And you even can get scalpers standing up the front of the stadium that try and sell you like tickets for 3 times the price.
Yeah, especially
Of course.
since I heard that normal audience you have to have a certain level on the
A level
Chinese
10
server.
account.
Yeah, on the Chinese server to get a ticket. So some people who don't necessarily like play League will buy tickets from the scalpers exclusively.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people, China's a bit right now is going through like a bit like how in the West, a lot of players prefer to watch more so than play themselves, and China's almost the same. Like, I mean, the numbers are a bit fudged on the streaming sites, but you still get a significant amount of people watching streams constantly.
I believe Wei Xiao was playing the other day with a, speaking of fudged numbers, with a very famous actress, and their streaming numbers projected were like 500,000 people watching. And obviously Douyu has a reputation of
I think they wrote
inflating
on the
those
site
numbers.
it was like 1 million or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
But I mean, a
gross
couple
numbers.
100,000 is probably realistic.
Yeah, but even if you're skewing those numbers, that's ridiculous. For someone just watching like a personal stream, like LCS on Twitch is like 300K at like top.
Yeah. But I mean, like, Chinese culture is very mob affair. Like, if you hear this one singer is like this, then you'll just mob the crap out of it, basically. Like this new, the coming Dota tournament will have like a big Chinese singer singing in a concert there. So like they're expecting like to sell 3 times the amount of tickets without it, compared to without the singer.
So,
So
how
people
big
would just
is...
watch it just.
I'm really bad.
Sorry, you go. No, it's
I
all
was,
good.
I was just wondering, how big is esports or League of Legends specifically when it comes to media presence in China? Because I know for Korea it's big, but
It's big, but it's like technically it's on the list of recognized sports in China, but it's sort of it could go away at any moment, sort of thing. Like it's not enshrined there like soccer or basketball. Like you can't like with esports you can just take it away. Whereas with basketball and soccer, people are like, what the hell? Why would you not make it a sport, sort of thing. In terms of population, I mean, every 10 people probably. The number I've been given is like 5 to 6 will be into esports in our sort of age group. And obviously the older people don't watch anyway. So, it's big, but you have to remember we've got 1.1 billion people, so it's bound to be big, but the percentages might still be the same sort of thing.
Yep.
Obviously, the best pictures are the ones of Flame getting his hair done, as Kelsey said.
team made.
He actually did have a joke about how he was being reduced to the butler when the rumor was that Kakao was going to LGD, so...
But is Chuen like really? Is he valuable to team morale? Is he one of the key components in helping create strategy? Is he very vocal during games? Like, what is? I'm just trying to figure out like where his worth is weighted, because right now.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me. So, because that's always what I hear is kind of like, remember kind of that if there's a little bit of bad PR around esports, at the end of the day, it could just like go away. Based on like, it's not even unlikely that maybe the government could someday just like decide to outlaw it and that it's gone.
I think esports will really hit the mainstream in China probably 2016, 2017, even though it's reasonably mainstream now, but to really be like, you know, in your face will take at least until next year in China.
Okay.
Do we have any? I think we can actually go to like the Q&A that we wanted to do for Orrin and LGD. So allowing our chat at this point in the Twitch chat, I don't have it in front of me. So Kelsey, Drexen, Raz, one of you, can you manage?
I'll put up the chat.
I'll just add one more thing. Like, a lot of people will ask, what is the sort of player base compared to Dota and LoL? That's probably the two big ones. Conservatively, it's probably 1:20. But there's talks that it might be up to 1:40, where 1 is Dota and there's 40 LoL players.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you how big of a difference it is in terms of player base.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Which makes me sad, obviously, because I'm from a Dota background. But you know, the reality is the reality. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's still probably a better ratio than in North America. So.
Oh god, yeah.
But Kelsey,
Sure.
TSM is the biggest fan base in League of Legends. Come on, they pull in the biggest numbers. Don't you know that?
That's how OMG's trying to play like them now.
She's like trying to like think about what I'm referring back to. I'm referring back to your Ask FM question.
I know what you're referring to. Yeah, someone asked me, wouldn't it be ideal if we had like a Western versus a Korean team? I was like, no. In the finals, in terms of getting the most viewers, I was like, no, you can't cut out the Chinese viewer base and expect to get peak viewer numbers.
It's just like there's so much of a disconnect. Which actually, while we're waiting for like questions to stack up, I do have a tangent to go on. The English broadcasting stream. I love that they're finally implementing the. We lost Orrin just as it goes to his Q&A. He's like, "Peace, bitches."
What do you think about Chuen now, bitch?
I love that the LPL English Riot broadcasting stream is using the intros and things, like using more pieces of the Chinese stream. They have the replay function. If you guys haven't watched it in a bit, because I think Raz is very religiously attached to the Chinese stream. They still don't use the stadium, so you can't see any of that, but they use all of the player intros. They use the main LPL intro, and then they also use the replay function. So,
I mean, that's nice. I would like. I still feel like the essential thing is connecting to how the players are reacting.
No,
to the game.
I totally understand, but like fact that it's been from week 1 to week 2, and we've already seen like this huge improvement over the production value and all of the things that they're adding. So to me, that's like, okay, from week 2 to at least week 7 in there, we could probably get these player cams.
Yeah, I've started paying attention to the English stream, and it's actually been a pretty big improvement in that sense.
Yeah, it's really good.
I do have a question here. How do most of the Chinese community feel about the Korean exodus?
I think everyone's really excited. Like, Chinese people in general are very nationalistic, so if you know all these big name players are coming to the LPL to watch, why wouldn't you? I'm sure the same would happen if all of them went to the LCS. Like, Americans would be super excited.
I don't know, actually. I mean, in a sense, sure, but I think it's a little bit different culturally. Like, I feel like there's actually a lot of people here that are like bitter about Koreans taking over like MA spots. I mean, it's weird, but I don't know. The reaction is a little bit different, but
I think that there are minorities in both. Like we have,
oh yeah,
for example, we had a certain website which will remain nameless, constantly translating like duo-on posts of people who are really, really salty about it.
Games in Asia.
I didn't
Wow.
want to invoke the name. Wow. Okay.
I'll call it out. Games in Asia will
Translate-
translate
effectively
effectively Twitch chat level comments and pass it as news. And
and
that's
say that
false.
was like representative of the Chinese community's reaction to the Korean imports. Whereas I think that, from my perspective, from the Chinese fans I've talked to, it's largely been like they're coming to play for us, as opposed to whereas I feel in North America the reaction is almost like they're coming
taking us over.
They're coming to displace our North American players.
Yep.
So
It's a different mentality
like-
entirely.
I'll put it this way, put it bluntly. Like every team spent, like it's no secret, every team spent a lot of money to buy Koreans to play in the LPL, and the only reason why you do it is because you want to win S5. So, in general, everyone agrees that the Koreans are better. There's no two ways about it.
What's I don't know if I want to actually talk about this. Never mind. Sorry.
I do have a
Good job.
question here.
No, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Because obviously this is actually really cool because we have two very different viewpoints. Like the fact that you're in like LG, it's an LPL level house that you're teaching them English. In my short time that I went to China, I interacted with a lot of the smaller, not as prominent known orgs, specifically in trying to find like players and everything like that. And there's definitely a huge difference financially between like name, and this is true in North America as well, like name players, like the stars of like UZI and Flame and those people, and the type of ridiculous amount of money, because everyone knows like these huge numbers have been thrown at like $500,000 for like this contract, or Faker being offered like $1 million contract, things like that. But there's a lot of Chinese players, and I'm assuming also Korean players, because they are making this Exodius because they weren't being paid well, and a lot of North America, but there's a lot of players in general that aren't getting paid good money, that are shuffled around like cattle. And I saw this very, not prominently, but I saw a lot of it in China, specifically because that's where I had my big interaction of trying to find players. It was a little bit in North America as well. But there's actually a story of a guy who, and I won't name his name, but he used to be a professional player, and his team wasn't paying him because the boss man effectively wasn't happy with the team's performance, and so he couldn't afford to eat. So he became malnourished, and his body started shutting down, and he had to go to the hospital. He's better now, but he can't like sit still anymore for long extended periods of time to like fit the lifestyle of a professional gamer effectively. So he had to give that up, and now he's a manager. So it's like, and this happens all the time when we talk to a couple players, like even when we had to let some players go because they didn't work out, they would cry because they didn't want to go back to the arrangement that they had been in. Mm-hmm. And when we did finally, just, I don't know, I saw a lot of, like, everyone thinks that it's just, like, happy-go-lucky, like, oh, you know, they have these amazing houses and everything like that, but there are a lot of players who can't afford education, so they go into playing League of Legends. Like, they can't afford to go to school and stay with their families, so they go to these gaming houses or these cattle farms of, like, gaming houses, and they just, like, play for, like, hours upon hours on end just to survive.
I think that's like you're hitting it nail on the head. It's just like the general environment of, it's not necessarily the gaming houses themselves, but just
it's
like
the
fact
clubs
that
at
they're
all, but it's just that.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a hard thing to talk about, but I feel like it almost needs to be said. And like the fact that we did have this brought up, because this is a problem, and people either know about it and they just ignore it, or they don't know about it and they don't do anything. And to me, it really goes back to and you work with Korean and Chinese players, so I'll ask you this, like, if you can tell, like, a difference, because we hear a lot that, you know, it's amazing not only to bring over the Korean players because of their talent level, but because their coaches are saying they're much easier to coach. It's their mentality about how they go about the game, the self-coaching thing about the Korean players, and you can confirm or deny if that's true for LGD, but on the team that I've worked with, you know, we have a Korean, we have a Chinese, and we have 3 Western players, and there's definitely a difference in mentality between how all of these cultures kind of go about the game. And when you have people like some of the Korean players who play to change the lives of their family, like Dandy, he has an opportunity that he's a professional gamer, that by making so much money he can give his family like a better life. And then you have some Chinese players who are playing the game simply because they can't afford to survive to do anything else. Yeah, I mean, you have that famous clip from Going in the Road to Worlds video where he's literally crying about how he doesn't think like his dad loves him and how he like ran away from school. And it's not the Western team's fault at all that video was edited to then cut to Cloud9 being like, we do it for the fans. Like, that's totally valid reason to do it. Like, Cloud9, great team. I actually really like Cloud9, but like the Koreans and the Chinese, but specifically Koreans, because I think that's the general, like, everyone agrees that the Korean players are better. It's not like they have 6 fingers. It's not like they play the game, like, just because they're Korean it's better. But there's a different reason why they're playing the game, and I think that hunger and that drive is what the Western players are missing.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because I do think that performance has a lot to do with, like, human elements, you know, like the drive to do things, not just like you're genetically better because you're Korean or Chinese as a player or something like that, you know. So yeah, I think it's important to discuss, and I don't think it's something that should always be kept in the dark and not talked about. So I don't know if Orrin has anything to say or if he's even with us, but
Yeah, I think.
Let me reconnect. One second.
okay.
It's
I don't know how much you've heard of this discussion while your VPN is bugging out.
The Great Firewall of China.
Ooh, rip.
While he's reconnecting, yeah, that's a great point, and it also comes back to like as much as we criticize like Vasily, like he had that problem where he was like, well, my
He's
mother's having
paying
health
for
issues.
his family. Like, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And so whenever we spoke of, and then just giving it, like bringing it to like an NA perspective, like whenever we talk about, man, like who are the best players, who define the scene, and it's like, well, we talk about Doublelift, and there's that story that people will talk about 1,000,000,001 times because no one else has this story, where it's just kind of like, it's once you have that drive to play well, and it's like, why do you, like, you ask a kid, like, well, why are you playing the game, or why are you playing competitively? And some people are like, well, this is a dream, I can go to school, or I can do this, I have so many options, but I will choose X instead of Y. And then you have like, well, you know, it's Doublelift, it's like, if I don't do well in this venture, I don't know where my future will take me. Like, I can see myself on the streets. Like, it's a very important thing to address, and it's honestly maybe something that is especially needs talking about when it comes to China, because
And don't get me wrong, just as a side anecdote, like, I'm not saying that there's, like, every Chinese player, like, has to go, because obviously we have people like Zatai, who is the son of a very wealthy person.
The opposite of what we're talking about.
Exactly, so just to, like, little side note there. Continue, Raz.
Yeah. But it's something we also have to really have that discussion with when it comes to China, because with every other region, you have that age lock, 17 years old, or 18, I don't know anymore. And you can be a professional player. But then when you have when you have that, kind of like that being ignored in China, you'll have those, and it always, for me, it's always been something that's, I've maybe been uncomfortable having that conversation when everyone's like, wow, look at this kid, he's a superstar, and he's 13 years old. And I'm like, how do you, like, what's your family like? What's going on? Like, what's happening with your education? Because at that point, you're not even, I'm not sure what's happening to junior high school. It's, and you can get to that point where exploitation becomes an issue. So, yeah, it's really something that needs to be addressed.
You have to think that when those kids go to those gaming houses, they probably don't have somewhere else to go. Like, they just happen to be good at this game, and this is like their thing. But, of course, Orrin probably knows a little bit more.
I can talk about. I spoke to Wayless a few days ago about something similar along the lines of this. And he said, like, when he was going through school, he was actually really good at school. He was getting, like, 90s out of 100s for most subjects. Until he sort of started playing League of Legends, essentially. And then Vici Gaming picked him up, I think, last year or the year before. And then that's when it all went to shit, basically, his grades. And then he moved into house. But I think his family sort of supports him. I asked him, you know, what do you plan on doing? Do you plan on going to uni after? Or, you know, do you want to work in sort of the business side? Or, yeah. There's a lot of aspects to the club as well. He said, you know, I don't really know right now. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just going to play. You know, I'm really young. I've got a couple of years ahead of me, 4 or 5 probably. So, and once I get to that point, you know, it's future Wayless's problem. And I think a lot of the players, the Chinese players, have a similar mentality, is that my job is to do well. I'll just do well. I don't need to think about anything else. And when it comes time, if the club says I need to go to Vici Gaming, well, then I got to go, right? Or I got dropped to be a free agent. No, I've got no control of it. So, and in terms, I suppose, of the money side, you know, it's obviously there's no player who's going to be like. They said to themselves, most players aren't going to be like, yeah, I'm crap. You know, I'm not as good as, I don't know, Pawn in mid. Like, everyone's going to think that they're good. And it's not fair. But at the same time, they haven't won Worlds either. And they didn't make a solid campaign. Like, it's arguable. Like, obviously, I'm coming from the outside. I didn't really watch too much of S4, like the final part. But from what I can tell, like, Starhorn Royal Club had a reasonably straightforward path to the end, arguably making it a lot easier, you know. And that's a lot of things that can get factored into it. So even though they did make it to Worlds, and obviously Uzi is an awesome AD carry, does that actually demonstrate that he's like the best in the world, even though he came second? And you guys, I watched to get myself up to speed, you guys have said time and time again last year that EDG was more consistent compared to Starhorn or OMG or EDG. I forgot which one it was.
EDG.
Yeah.
It was way more consistent on a day-to-day basis than Starhorn.
Even though both
OMG.
of them were, both of them were. But
So,
then
yeah.
at Worlds, Starhorn Royal Club beat both of them. So,
and I guess that like all those things come into the play of how much a player gets paid and whether they feel bad or good about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. If they whinge and whine about it, what's going to change? They just need to prove themselves in the LPL, and then move on to the World Series. And then if they do well, then they can come back and say, "Look, I won Worlds. Give me a pay rise."
Yeah.
I also want $1 million.
Do we have any questions now in our Twitch chat?
yeah.
Because this episode took a dark turn.
I picked up a bunch of other questions while we were talking about this. Someone wants to know, I think it was McMozzie, why Acorn plays game 1 and Flame plays game 2, and like why is there a reasoning why it's never the other way around, or are they ever going to switch up the order?
At this stage, the reasoning is that Acorn, the team feels more comfortable because he's been here for longer and he's obviously more solid, like stable. There's less fluctuation, I suppose, is the easiest way to put it. So, and again, like every other team, we are also trialing things out until probably the New Year's. And then after New Year's, we'll, when the second half of the split happens, we'll work out what's going to happen.
So it's just like he's playing Ogba?
I would make the assumption that it's to win the first game to make sure that you can switch Flame for the second.
It's something similar lines to that. I mean, like, I'm not the coach. The coach going ahead, the coach is going to make the decision. But essentially, that's a simple way of putting it. Like, if you win the first game, then Flame should be able to do well because the team's feeling pumped. Like you saw it against EDG, we just got wrecked the second game.
Any other
Okay.
questions, Kelsey?
The next question was someone wants to know about what the crossover is between the player base of League of Legends and Dota, because you mentioned that the Dota player base is much smaller. Do you think that there are a lot of Dota players who also play LoL?
I wouldn't say a lot. I think it's like the West. Like, Dota players hate League of Legends because League of Legends is an easy game, something.
I learned this when I was working at Josie Gamers.
And then League of Legends are like, oh yeah, but Dota, you know, this, that, I don't know, something. So I think that's, I mean, like I've got a few friends that are ex-pros from the China scene, and they're like, all the new Dota players went over to play professional LoL.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard a lot of that.
Yes.
Me too.
So that's sort of, I mean, the reason why Dota is so popular, not Dota, League of Legends. League of Legends is popular is because you need a QQ account to open it up. So everyone basically has a QQ account because it's like the old school MSN. To open any sort of online account in China or any account in general, you need your citizen ID number. So for kids, they're not going to have that. Their parents are going to look after that in their purse or whatever. So if you're a kid, you go, I just want to open up an MSN account. No worries, here's your number, go open it up. And then because of that, they can play League of Legends. But if you go, I want to open up a Dota account, then they're going to be like, is that a game? Yes. Okay, no, you're not allowed to have it. That's a simplified way of looking at it. That's why there's a huge discrepancy. Everyone's got an MSN account or QQ. You know, it's like an integral part of our society. Well, this society, not my society. And that's why there's so much penetration. And there's talks, like I spoke to the boss of Newbie, and he thinks that potentially Hon, because Hon got picked up by Tencent as well, potentially Hon can outgrow Dota as well, because it's a QQ-based game.
Interesting.
But that's a speculation, obviously. No one knows what's going on.
It actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, the accessibility is part of the reason it was, got big in the West, and that's like amplified times 10 with the whole, QQ thing. So.
The next question we have is, do you know, has BBSY or maybe PYL explained why Acorn is only playing Rumble and Aurelia?
No, I don't know that.
Those champions are the best, man.
I mean, that's what I figure is just
That's what it comes down
the
to.
best ones. Yeah, like we saw Flame play Lysandra, and Lysandra's usually banned. So, I mean, it's the same reason why I assume PYL had XQ play Lucian every game last year. Like Lucian was broken. Rumble and Aurelia right now are really good. So, and Acorn's Rumble is probably like the best Rumble in the world.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they've obviously got a strategy. I don't really get involved with that side of things. Plus, I don't really know all the champions either, so it's really hard. I'll be like, I think Rumble's the one the flamethrower dude, so I'll be
He's
like,
the one whose voice is on helium.
Yeah, that's the
but
best.
It's all in
voice.
Chinese.
Yeah, he's really squeaky though.
The cutest voice in the League of Legends, dude.
Yeah, but
like the
it's
greatest.
all Chinese, so I can't tell.
What you can definitely tell. This guy is like, he's on like helium. He's got a really high-pitched, squeaky flamethrower.
I'm talking specifically about the Chinese Rumble voice, not because obvious. Yeah. The one in the English one isn't as good.
The English one just sounds like really bratty.
Yeah,
The
I
Chinese
don't
one's
know.
on like crack.
Chinese Rumble is the best. So does LGD share with you any conception of which teams they feel like are doing worse or better than they expected in LPL? So I know Vici Gaming,
probably one of the standing out one. Probably doing a little bit worse than they should be. Snake, obviously, because they beat EDG. Other than that, I mean, everyone's sort of sitting where they should be at. I mean, I thought, like, when Vici beat IG today, it was a bit of an upset, but apparently at the last minute they changed out Rookie for Zatai. That's why. So, I mean, everyone else sort of is where they sort of should be. It's all like you guys mention every single time. Like it's always like random. A lot of the times, what's happening, and it's the first few weeks. Like I've said probably 5 times already. Everyone's just trying out how to make these hybrid rosters work. Like we're all in the same boat. Even EDG, they're gonna have communication issues somewhere along the line.
Here's a fun one, and feel free to break everyone's in chat's heart with this because I have a feeling I know the answer. But does LGD watch VODs from the Korean League, LCK, North American LCS, and EU LCS?
They watch the LCK. VODs.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We really need to check out that CLG versus Teammate.
Oh my god, please.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you guys know that being in China, we're quite disconnected from the Western world, especially. So we don't really know, I suppose, what's going on. There's no restream of it either. So whereas the OGN is restreamed on 175kh, so that's probably why that we do watch that
Twitch
as well.
is really hard to watch in China.
Oh, it's so laggy. Like I can only get it to work on a VPN, and even then, like last week they just went on a massive crackdown on all VPNs, so it's really fluctuating right
So
now.
accessibility again, like of even getting the LCS games is really hard.
Yeah,
You don't have YouTube either, so
no YouTube, nothing.
What does that do to research when it comes into, let's say, like for instance, international competition like All Stars or Worlds or something?
I mean, haven't been here long enough in the world.
Okay.
Like we haven't been here in a international tournament
what do you
in a while.
guys do for kind of going off of that segment for like review? Because in China, the Ionian server is so populated that you physically can't, like this is like you can't. I'm now more talking to like the viewers. You can't spectate the games. So when you guys want to do scrim matches, typically in North America, you go in, you have your 4 spectator slots, you GG the game out before the game ends, so there's no track record, so teams can't go and like go into your match history and check out what you guys were playing or who did what. But you keep the recording, so you OBS record a spectator view of the game, so you can see both sides. In China, it crashes. There's so many people on the Ionian server that you're not able to do that. So typically, what I've understood is teams OBS from a player's point of view, but that means that you can't see anything that the enemy team is doing. So you almost have to like guesswork. Is that true for LGD?
Like I'm not part of the training regime, obviously, but I do know that we always have like at least one computer in our obs position in a scrim, and whether they record that, I'm guessing so. Yeah, that's my answer to that. Just because, like when they train, I don't go down there. I don't talk. I might just watch them. Like the coach obviously sits behind them and watches them, and writes down notes and stuff and does feedback. And then yeah, so I'm guessing they just use the obs video after to go watch the replay, and do analysis on it.
Because when we scrimmed LGD, they actually did some really crazy things with their level 1s, which was very unique. But it was funny because we were rewatching the videos because we couldn't do the spectate feature. You were effectively just watching like dark space, and you're just like, okay, how did LGD do this? What were they deciding? And so I can only imagine, and Aaron I think also mentioned it in his EDG interview, like how fucking difficult must it be to improve as a Chinese team, really? Like just think about like the idea that you only get 50% of the information that pretty much every other region is getting when they do their VOD reviews, because they get to see exactly where the enemy team is warding and exactly where the enemy team is moving. And in China, that's just not available to you.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I guess it's not like it's no different to real sports, I suppose. You don't really know what the other teams are training with, so.
Yeah, except
That's one attitude down.
but every other region gets to know.
Except in every other region, yeah. I have some fun questions. Could you like describe your players' personalities? From like how would you describe, like maybe even one word, describe their personalities?
Wayless is lovable. Chuan is shit talker.
That's great. That is great.
best.
I'm so happy that is the case.
PYL is mediator, I suppose. Is very calm.
I can see that.
Flame is a princess.
Princess Flame.
Imp is KTV.
She's
And
actually.
Akon
It's
is
the
a chill.
embodiment of freaking.
I'm just imagining he sings everything. He never like just talks. He's just like, please gank my lane.
No, that's Flame.
Oh,
He
God.
just walks around the house just singing all day, every day.
He says, "Please
And
gank my
and it's
lane."
like,
in his sleep.
I don't know. When I was seeing him, I was just like, la la la. He's like Pavarotti. Just like the whole house can hear him. I can hear him from third floor, and he's down on the first floor. It's ridiculous.
Nice.
It's great.
Does he sing in the shower?
This got
I'm not actually
personal.
around when they get up to the shower.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they only I mean, before you guys talked about regime, right? So most of the Chinese players will play until 3 or 4, like solo queue. The Koreans will regularly stay up until 7 or 8 in the morning, and then wake up at 1, no problem. And I guess that's a big difference compared to China, like the Chinese regime.
Scrim culture in China is they have 3 sets a day. It's 2, 4, and 7, and there's a dinner break between 4 and 7. And then after 7, they have mandatory solo queue until and you can't after the set of 7 scrims, it's impossible to get a scrim. Like you contact someone at 9, you're like, hey, our scrim cancel, or we just got done with this. Do you guys want to scrim? They're like, no, they have mandatory solo queue. They have to do it.
By mandatory solo queue, they mean like mandatory streaming hours.
Gotta get that money.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's a good one. I'm curious about, because I know that there's a difference between, there isn't a lot of Korean involvement in Dota, for example. And I know that there's a lot of, whenever I go to these Chinese message boards, there are a lot of, Dota people. After an international tournament, there will be a lot of Dota people shit-talking Chinese players for being unable to beat the Koreans.
Yep.
How do you, do you have this kind of, how do you feel about if Koreans were more invested in Dota? Do you think that they would be as dominant over the Dota scene, or do you think that Chinese players who play League are just honestly worse?
I mean, Korea has the 2 top teams, Dota teams in Korea. One is Rave, and that's 5 Filipinos. Okay, and then
Nice.
and then the other team is MVP Phoenix. These are the 2 top teams because there's obviously lower level ones as well, and that's full Korean. And I like them. They're like my dark horse that would do top 8 sort of thing. But I think there's still a big sort of skill gap between I don't know, they're obviously not badly skilled, if that makes sense, the Korean players, but it just seems like whenever they go on a LAN tournament, when they execute, they'll do well or they might do not well. They won against Vici and Newbie, I think, when they went to do the Nexon show matches, but from what I was told, neither of the teams took it seriously at all because they just got paid to go play show matches. We'll find out next week when the Dota Asia Championships happen. But I just think that their player base in Dota is so low that they have limited options to be the best, if that makes sense. If everyone's playing League, how many skilled players can you really get in Dota?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's sort of my opinion. That said, I really like MVP Phoenix.
Any more questions, Kelsey?
It looks like we have a Pyrotechnics wants to know what the name of a band comprised of Acorn Flame and Razzleplasm would be called.
MC Sniper.
and
I love how fast that was.
MC
This is an
Sniper.
instant response.
and who would play what instrument?
They'd all be rapping and singing. They'll all be the same
It's a-
person.
It's a,
They
is it a
don't have
K-pop
instruments.
rap or is it like a?
K-pop. They only
Maybe
sing
it's more like
K-pop.
Boys II
Okay.
Men or something. You know?
Oh no, wait, no. Imp likes Westlife.
Oh, okay.
So.
I can respect that. I can work around that.
Okay, here's the story that everyone. I don't understand why this question hasn't popped up. Give me your best Flame story.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, does Flame actually have like a? Does he understand the world's obsession with him?
By world, we mean Western.
The Western fans, does he have any idea how popular he is to the Western
I
fans?
think someone said
particularly?
this, and someone asked this in the AMA, and I think his response was no.
I'm gonna just leave it at he understands that he has to protect his image. So
Oh, okay.
I'll leave it at that.
That's
So
fair.
I think, like I was doing the AMA. I think he was being a bit coy about it.
Oh,
Personally,
okay.
but that's an opinion.
Mhm.
Best Flame story.
With his image in mind.
Okay, I'll just use the. This is my favorite. You know Evian mineral water?
Oh yes.
Yeah. He uses that to wash his face because he doesn't trust Chinese water, tap water.
There we go.
There you
Just
go.
his face?
Well, I haven't checked the other parts.
Why would you ask that?
I'm just
Wow.
wondering if Chinese water is good enough for, the rest of his bathing ritual.
Well, he's all right. Like I've got better stories of other teams and how ridiculous they are. So
Oh, wow, really?
A guy
yeah.
who
Do
only
tell.
imports the most expensive bottled water to wash his
No,
face, and you
no,
have better
it's free.
stories.
It's free for Flame. His fans send him to him.
Oh, his fans sent it to him.
Boxes.
Did you know? No.
So, no, I've got better stories, but I probably shouldn't say them on there.
Okay.
I wanna hear your best PYL story if you have a PYL story.
No, I mean, not really. Like they're really,
They're really chill.
yeah, they're really
You just
I
broke
don't know what's the
Kelsey's
word,
heart
like-
right there.
like for example, Whaleless. All he wants to do is eat and play games.
He's a dog,
basically.
apparently.
Hey man,
Like
that's
he's a
life.
really good, cool guy. Like he's a cool guy, really chilled,
In playing games. and stuff.
really funny. But no, I don't know about PIF. His cat's cool.
He has a cat?
Yeah.
He's tactical. Oh
How
no,
did
his
I not
cat's
know?
cool.
Oh, how did I not know he had a cat?
No, he's
This
got
is
a
good.
cat. Because so tactical.
I've
Is he
seen-
shy?
I've seen pictures of Acorn holding PYL's cat. Yeah.
Yeah, his cat's like paranoid and afraid of everything. Like he'll just keep running around throughout the entire gaming room, like up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you try and stop him, or her, I think it's a her, she'll just keep running away from you. And then if you do grab him, she'll just keep meowing constantly. And
What's
then you
his
can't do
cat's
anything.
name?
It's basically means funny in Chinese.
Oh god.
I hear a
It's
cat.
like we summoned it.
Raz is like, time to go get my cat. Aww. I love cats.
Success.
Okay, is that,
Looks like Elle's cat.
It does look like PYL's cat, actually.
Maybe Rez just went to go get it that quickly. He's back. He's like, I got
Today I
it, guys.
learned.
Here it
BRB
is.
Shanghai.
He's a ninja.
Okay.
Oh man. Okay.
Do we have anything else? No? Okay, closing statements. First and foremost, Orrin, thank you so much for appearing on China Talk. We very rarely get guests, and so we get a little nervous when we do have guests. We kind of cut you off. We're really polite. We don't like to talk over you or anything like that. But no, really, thank you so much for taking the time out to come up on the show.
That's cool. Obviously, there's skin in it for me. I get to promote LGD internationally to our 100 viewers or whatever it is. But you know, it's fun. Like for me, like I tune in because coming from Dota, I don't really know. I'm slowly getting the hang of what's going on with everything, but I rely a lot on China Talk every week on VODs predominantly because Twitch lags so much.
That's where most of our reviews come from. So
If a
that's
guy
pretty normal.
named Duncan tries to hit you up for a show called Insight on Esports, just
Yeah.
just
Turn him
say
down?
no. Yeah, exactly.
Just-
this is a China Talk exclusive.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, like I'd love to have done it in the living room, but we sort of ran out of space today because that way you would have seen the players walk behind me, past me.
I came here for you. I didn't come here for Flame.
But yeah, no, it's been fun. Like, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on
Thanks
and
for,
connect with other people.
Thanks for
bit lonely
subjecting
here.
people into exploitation for the purpose of promoting the show.
Oh yeah. Just record something. It's like 3 seconds. Don't worry about it. He's like, no, I'm gonna do my hair first. I was like, here, have a hat. Wear a hat. It'll be fine. And he's like, no.
That's awesome.
He washed his face a bit and then did the thing. But yeah, he calls
Did
me
you
Orrin.
wash his face with? Just
I think he used normal tap water.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I
so,
knew there was
yeah.
a reason why I liked Acorn more.
Acorn's more economic. All right.
No, but it's all good around here. I will say though, big shout out to obviously our sponsors, 1006, Razer, Kingston HyperX, Taobao, Zanchi, and Hormao. Got to do the rounds.
Good job.
Good job,
It's nice that some people remember their sponsors.
Raz.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Kelsey Drexen, Raz. Closing statement, shoutouts.
Okay, since mine's the easiest one, Esportspedia, and a shout out to Hugo and Matt G for their first day in the LCS. That was really nice
He
to watch.
almost said win, and he stopped himself.
No,
No, Hugo looked fly.
He looked sick.
Yeah, he had like
Uh,
a sweet plaid tie and like a baby blue like blazer. I was like, Hugo, damn.
Oh, and Pyrotechnics. What? How the hell did I? Oh my god! How did I forget about that? They all did extreme. Like it was really fun watching all of them, and Pyrotechnics did really damn well on stream. That was at first I was like, oh, this is first time in such
It
a
was supernatural.
big setting. Yeah, and he just like hit it right out of the park. So that was really good.
Yep.
Mm.
Shout out to our fellow Chinese men moving on, getting out of this wild region and doing more important things with their esports life. But no, other than that, just general shout out to esports heaven and the panelists here, and again, reiterating the thankfulness for Orrin being on the show. It's been really nice.
Everyone follow LGD Gaming on Twitter. We'll get the VOD out, which will probably get more viewers than the live stream, just because this is generally an awkward time for a lot of
Also,
people.
it's literally a brand new channel.
Yeah, that too. But so that will hopefully be helpful for LGD Gaming fans. Yeah, and thanks for coming on. More content will be coming to this channel. We'll continue to do the Showdown VODs. We might be experimenting with times just so that people can get the match previews earlier. I want to start a show called Brawl, maybe this week or next week, which is breaking down like the highlight team fights from the week, which I think, because my favorite thing about the Chinese League of Legends region is the team fighting. So, yeah. Otherwise, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Everyone wave. Yeah, I love how Orrin knew.
So, but that said, when I say English, it'll be like instead of saying nice when you kill someone, it'll be nice-oo, impu, and like it's all Koreanified. So, and then like other words will be old Chinese-fied. So it's like a mix and match. In going ahead though, we're structuring it so that they'll have regular English lessons with me, where we'll slowly teach them more complicated communication methods.
Do you teach them the English?
Yeah. So yeah, I do.
Okay.
So we did try initially with just a sort of a translation deck, where on the left was the Chinese word, the middle was like the common way that they would communicate, whether that's in Koreanified English or in Chinese, like in the pinging, and then the last column was the Korean version, so all the players had it, but it didn't seem to work very well. So we're definitely going in the actual proper English training method. Plus, they're really excited. Obviously, S5 is in Europe now, so all the Chinese players like, I really want to learn English and be able to talk to people, and have fun and things like that. So, but that's a bit digressing a little bit.
Can I ask? I don't know how much of this is like top secret strategy, but what kind of vocabulary? Like, what is your guys' vocab? Do you guys structure? Because obviously, I would assume that you'd have like set words that.
So, what we've done is at this stage is that they've listed out all the keywords either in Korean or in Chinese that they think is critical to gameplay. We've listed out in a table format, and then the common version in the middle. So how we translate across. From there, then going ahead, I'll be teaching them the proper way. We'll do it in a standardized English version without any accents to it, but that's only on the list. So they're I guess specific phrases and words, but that's not good enough to explain complicated methods like go around this corner to gank someone, or nuke this guy, not this guy. So that'll be the next phase, but that probably won't happen until in March at this stage.
So like, what are your keywords? Like gank. Obviously, I'm assuming go is one. Do you have one for like focus, dive?
Yeah. So the common ones that all members have would be like you said, gank, dive, back. Nuke, no ulti. Then like we'll say, like in Australia, we'll say it's on cooldown, whereas they'll say that what does flame say? I can't remember, but they don't say the same thing. And then they've sort of worked out what everything means and things like that. Like in Chinese. Because mana is blue, the color blue, so we say blue in Chinese, so lan. Whereas they say MP, no MP, like in an RPG. So there's things like that still needs to get worked out. I mean, it works obviously, but I want to try and standardize it as much as possible. So then at least if they do end up moving or whatever, they're not stuck in one sort of way of like Naisu, Impu.
Yeah.
Things like that. So.
When prepping for games and when working with the coaches, as far as like creating strategy, is it obviously presenting that to the team, because you guys are a mixed language team? Is it presented in both languages, or can you clearly see like a disconnect though of some players not maybe understanding everything because of like transferring through languages?
Our translators, we have two. Both. So in China, there's a lot of minority groups, and one of them lives along the border with North Korea. So they're fluent, like they were taught both Mandarin and Korean when they were growing up, so they can translate it perfectly. This is like me with English, but for them it's Korean. So there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no sort of disconnect, especially because one of the translators actually plays the game. That's why he's doing this, whereas the other one's just a normal translator. So at this stage, there's no sort of problem, but I don't know going ahead whether there may be more complicated stuff. So.
Are any of the Korean players... Okay, if everything went correctly, and I think it did, we should be live right now. Sorry about the countdown, guys. It got a little funny. We do have a special guest. Again, I'm your host, Frostgrim, but I'm going to introduce our special guest first because no one even cares about you guys. Like, we have you guys every single week to week. I know I love you, but they don't. It's going to be Orrin Xu. Orrin, I'll ask you some questions so you can kind of give yourself a formal introduction, but we're just going to say representing on China Talk LGD. Is that a fair...
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much.
We could use that then. Raz, Esportspedia. Drexen is going to be Esports Heaven. And then Kelsey Moser is representing a lot of people. Yeah, I'll go with that. But first and foremost, let's just get right back into it again because we do have a guest and we don't get a lot of guests on China Talk, so I really want to talk about this. So, Orrin, I know that you have a background with Dota. And can you
Yep.
kind of explain that to me? And do you have any sort of background in League of Legends at all, other than obviously your job? But as far as like background knowledge.
So I guess I first came across League when Dota was on the decline, around 2009, I think. Oh no, 2010, when HOM came out and LoL came out, and I tried both. LoL had the cel shaded graphics and it gave me a headache, so I quit after 2 games. And that's pretty much my experience in LoL.
That's the
Over the years,
harshest.
and then I played Dota, because I'm obviously I'm for Dota. Then I get too angry at Dota, so I'll go play LoL because I'm a noob, and then it's all good because it's fun because I'm a noob. Whereas in Dota, because I know the game so well, that I'm like, why are you doing this, why are you doing that, and getting angry. So I use LoL as like a escape from the rage.
That's totally fair. So
Man, you know it's bad when someone uses League as an escape from the rage.
Never play Dota with me.
I'm not that bad. I'm just, I'm actually a
No,
quite
I'm a
nice
bad
player.
one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I played Dota once and I couldn't figure out how to buy items, and everyone in chat is like raging at me, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna go back to League of Legends now. But that was my experience with Dota. No, that's cool because obviously there are some parallels to them both being MOBAs, and I think Kelsey talked to you kind of previously on what your take on some of the games were, because obviously we're going to talk a lot about the game. So it'll be interesting to get a Dota guy's perspective on what's happening in the games, because every time I watch Dota, I'm like, something is happening, it looks awesome, but I have no idea what it was. Just like large explosions overtaking my screen. It's like an epileptic nightmare. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I would describe awesome things.
Yeah, epileptic nightmares. No, LGD, what is your position exactly in the house? And you're in the LGD Gaming house, yeah?
Yeah, so we've got, in this location, we have 3. One for, I guess, our admin business side. That's where I work.
Does
We've got,
Flame get one house all to himself?
No, he gets
Oh.
a whole room for himself, though.
Okay.
All the other players have to share a room, so it's special. So this house itself is just League of Legends. We have all the players. We have a maid sort of person who cooks and cleans for us. We have the translator. We've got the team manager / coach, which is White Crescent, and then we have the team leader, which is sort of the guy who just pays all the bills, makes sure the house runs perfectly. Sort of like a babysitter sort of position. That's sort of this house. And then most of the other houses, like all the other gaming houses, are roughly the same sort of setup, except in this one I live here as well with the LGD players.
And are you in Shanghai then?
Yeah, so we're just sort of like on the very outer reach of Shanghai. This way there's less distractions, because obviously Shanghai's a bit of a metropolis. So people can go out and have fun and not come back and train. So we try and avoid that by living very far away from anything fun.
Okay, and specifically, what is your job within the organization?
So my job is on the business development side. We talk to sponsors. We look at events as well. So where our players will go and basically be spokesperson for them. And then we look at how monetizing, I guess, our fans to create more revenue for the company or the club, and therefore.
Because obviously PYL is the captain, and he's well known kind of for like his ability to captain and to lead a team. Do any of the Korean players have input on that, or is it mostly all through PYL?
I think the top laners are pretty sort of take a step back. Imp does have a few opinions, and that gets translated out, obviously. But overall, in game, typically, from what I've seen, watching their scrims and stuff, it's pretty vocal all across. But obviously, PYL takes the driver's seat most of the time. But it's pretty even as far as I can tell. Again, I'm not a huge connoisseur of League of Legends either, so it's hard for me to tell.
Do they get along?
Yeah, there's no problem. There's a few things that they don't like about China, the Koreans. But it's not the players.
Okay, here's a major question for me.
Where Imp was like, I'm not eating that.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask. Is it the food? How's the Chinese food? Because I have had bad experience with Chinese food. It's a really bad.
Our maid's pretty good, I think. it's definitely not to their taste, and so the management, people above me, have decided that they're going to get takeaway Korean for every single meal now. So while we look for a Korean chef, but you know, each player has their little quirks. Akon has the least amount of problems out of all the players in terms of getting accustomed to it. He really likes it, from what I can tell. And then it slowly progresses to more and more sort of requests and needs from the team. I'm not going to go elaborate more, but
Would you say that Acorn is the most mature player out of all of them?
yeah. I mean, the translator tells me he can tell from talking to him in Korean that because he's done his national service, there's like a massive difference between who's not done his national service. So he thinks he's definitely way more mature, and I guess that might be why he, takes things more easily than certain other players who shall not be named.
I have so many assumptions that I'm just making. Okay, Orrin, you haven't actually chimed in, and you were the one who wanted to talk about the Snake versus EDG game. And in fact, let's lead it with this. Like, before you kind of break down into that game and give us your thoughts, can you tell us what LGD thinks of Snake? I mean, obviously, they haven't faced yet, but
this is my opinion from what I can tell from what talking to them. It may not be there, but it's obvious that Snake is definitely a tier below the top tier teams of China in the LPL. But Snake definitely proved people wrong on Friday. I think that's when they played. So we gotta prepare. I suppose I can reveal. I mean, scrims don't mean much, but we have lost to Snake in scrims as well. So they're definitely was a massive confidence boost for them, and we're not going to take them lightly, but they're definitely not. They're not EDG level. Like, by far, talking to no matter which player you talk to in China, they think EDG is the team to beat this year, and like OMG might be second, but there's a big gap between.
I think, so from what I've noticed of the way EDG plays and Snake plays, that Snake's style is almost like a counter to EDG. That and Snake's pick and ban phases were much better than EDG's for those series. Like, they got ridiculously good combinations and champions. And so EDG typically, and I think this is why you guys struggled with them, is because I think you have similar issues with the early lane phase not being as good as like the late game coordination and map movements and team fighting. So the way historically that it's been, and it's changed a little bit because EDG is not exactly the same team, you beat Edward Gaming is only in the late game, only in the early game, because like the late game, if they're ahead, they'll just destroy you. So I think that has a lot to do with it, because like the rising teams from LSPL are very proficient in the snowball and making those early game decisions, and it's in closing out where they struggle a little bit more.
Maybe just the week 1, week 2, like just week 1 actually. It just came down to the fact that
We've only had 2 weeks.
Well, no, here.
Yeah. But I meant like I thought week 1 was just specifically going to be easy for them, but damn, Beast and Ella actually did really, really well for that team in terms of vision control. Just because they caught out a lot of like ganks before they even happened, or just like. And I didn't expect that. I really didn't. I thought they were just going to be the B tier Koreans coming in, kind of like World Elite class, and they weren't going to perform, or at least as well as Reborn and Colin did for that team.
I'm glad that you brought up scheduling, because I think that there's something that was very unique in how we handled the Snake situation, because if you look kind of across at Invictus Gaming had really easy scheduling as well. I mean, they faced Energy Pacemaker, Gamty, and World Elite kind of before they came up against Vici Gaming, and so it's like no one said anything about IG's like easy schedule. We ranked them not super high, but they got much higher than Snake, obviously, because Snake came in dead last. And it's kind of like, why did we rate IG so highly? Was it simply, like you said, that B tier Korean versus the S tier Korean?
I guess I did it. Oh, go on, Kelsey.
I just want to say I think I rated them so low because we saw them when they first had their new roster, and they looked significantly worse than they did before with their older roster. And obviously there are issues with growing pains and things like that, but you can't see a team play do really terribly, and that's all you have to go on, and then say, oh yeah, they're not going to be last place. Like, they did okay in WGT finals, but that was one group stage game that they won, like a couple group stage games before they ended up getting knocked out. So it still isn't a lot to go on, and I don't know. They advanced a lot as a group in a very short amount of time. I think for me the test is still, I want to see them on a big patch, because since WE, that's my test for all of these mixed language teams, is how they adapt, and if they can adapt quickly enough to a really, really big meta change.
And obviously,
that means,
you're referring to the point at which World Weight fell last year and Star Heroicum rose up, was the patch shift away from kind of that protect the 80 carry mentality. Which sounds weird because I just said Star Heroicum excelled, but Lucian was really strong in that patch.
No, it's more like the lane swapping and the focus on dragons, because they used to just send like Shoutout top, and he would 1v1 the top laner, because Conan could roam, and Conan roamed kind of effectively. But
Kicking
I think
that guy
was
out of the lane.
Yeah, and instead, like, Shoutout refused to kind of adapt, and he still would go top and just farm and farm and farm, and they would give up dragons when Dragon Gold was significantly higher. Yeah, they would give up dragons in favor of him getting farm, and that was a big problem.
And you brought up mixed language, and obviously Snake. I'm assuming that they compete with those same issues, and the fact that they have those 2 Korean players as well. But it doesn't seem to be as big of a problem for them as it did, say, Invictus Gaming or some of, because you can kind of see, like, even in EDG, which they looked amazing in their first week, there's some things that are starting to kind of like fall apart, especially in such a team fight based meta like the Chinese region. Guys, following what I'm saying at all? I see Kelsey typing in chat, I'm assuming.
No. I'm just sitting here. I'm thinking as you're saying this is that we all say stuff about mixed language rosters and how hard it is for them to adapt and this other stuff, but I kind of want to know what Orrin thinks about this, because he has, being like a Chinese to English translator and working with like the Chinese Korean translator, he might have a little bit more insight about what that's like. So
yeah, obviously I was about to ask him, but thanks, Kelsey. Thanks for my segue.
I took your job.
So in terms of our team, we use English to communicate in pretty much everything. They do have Chinese lessons, but that sort of stopped since the LPL started. A lot of their time spent predominantly just training, whether that's solo queue, duo queue, or in scrims. But yeah, 90% of communication is done in English. We get more better players, invest more back into the club as well. So this year you'll see LGD put a lot more focus on our international fan base, both in Dota and League of Legends. But at the moment it's just me running it, so obviously a lot of the content is more League because I live with the League team. But eventually we'll have our own sort of international team and then there's a lot of people who've been asking to buy, for example, team uniforms, so we'll have that on sale, things like that.
Oh, that'll
so
be
there's no
popular.
difference anywhere else. So.
Okay, so here's actually my burning question. Before we get to anything else, one thing I'm curious about. XQ, where is he?
He's gone home. He's part of the team, but he's on the bench for now.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
It's like the where in the world is Carmen Sandiego kind of like question there.
How can we get him to play for Vici Gaming?
How can we get him on Vici Gaming?
I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't know.
I won't even put you in that type of situation.
Yeah.
It's sorry.
that was definitely a rhetorical question on my part.
Okay. So obviously every single week in LPL there are a ridiculous amount of games. There's 24 games, there's 12 sets of 2, yada yada yada. That's a ton of games for us to cover on this show. So I wanted to focus on 3. I believe that Orrin, you wanted to bring up another one, Snake versus EDG, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So
obviously,
yeah, we're gonna talk about 4 games, and the 4 games that we're going to talk about, other than Snake versus EDG, of course, we're going to talk about LGD versus EDG because that was the big highlight game. King versus Snake, and Invictus Gaming versus Vici Gaming. And the reason why I chose these games, the panelists didn't really have a say, but I would assume that they would agree, is because I feel like these games give us the best kind of representation across the spectrum of where things have finally settled. Because obviously the last time that we did China Talk, we did our rankings episode. And lo and behold, Snake is not last place. And that's the first thing that I want to kind of like hit you guys with. Because I know we just kind of talked about LGD, but I want to hold off on LGD versus EDG. I want to open with King versus Snake, and first and foremost, the fact that we gave Snake such a low rating, and we rated King so highly, or we spoke very highly of them. And to be frank, King has pretty much shit the bed as far as our expectations of them, and Snake has gone above and beyond anything that we predicted for them. So even before we get down into that actual breakdown of the game, like, where do you think we specifically went wrong on Snake? Like, what were the things that we hit them on, or the things that you guys docked them on, and then where did they overcome, or where did they overcompensate?
I will say specifically from my end, when I was doing LSPL research, I thought the way they were playing wouldn't carry over to LPL successfully, much like a lot of other LSPL teams that have like almost hit the spotlight, like World Academy back in the day and stuff like that. And I also think that I was a little surprised with how well Flandre handled himself against some of the other top lane talent individually. Just because I knew he was good in LSPL and he would like hard carry his team there, but I didn't realize that he would go head to head with a lot of the top laners here. And he, I brought this up on my point when we were reviewing the games before they broadcasted, but I always kind of thought he was one of those like hipsters players, like kind of like the actually that's discrediting him. I was gonna say like the Cali trolls of like China, but that's like super wrong. But no, he plays really strong meta champions, and their team fighting has looked pretty good. And I even think like Crystal's been shaping up over the course of multiple games. So
okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to talk about the idea of the scheduling being it favors Snake in the early run, which is at the same time as well, like because they had the game with GAMT. I expected them to beat GAMT, but I did like later on. I thought GAMT would come together and they would be a better overall team than Snake. What I didn't expect, obviously, I don't think anyone expected, was the game that they like the set that they beat EDG in, and they felt like. I can't rate them last place anymore because I did feel like
I would hope
not. Because even though I did feel like the scheduling favored them extremely highly, like in the first couple of weeks.